Chapter 1084. Old Brother Snow Eagle, you should stay here temporarily and don't run around recklessly. There are many forbidden grounds in this Fan Clan Magic Mountain. Even the terrifying experts from the Summer Clan and Song Clan have come to my Fan Clan Devil Mountain to cultivate. If you were to barge into the forbidden ground, you might be killed by the arrays of the forbidden ground. Fan Tian Chong reminded. In a while, the identity token of an upper honored guest will be sent over. By then, you will know which places in the Fan Clan Magic Mountain you can and cannot go to. Brother Tian Chong, don't worry. I won't wander off. Dongbua Shueing nodded his head. Fan Tian Chong quickly left. Dongbua Shueing sat in the courtyard, looking at the mountains far away. Despite the distance, he could still sense the terrifying aura emanating from the mountains. The experts nurtured by the three great clans in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation are entirely different. Dongbua Shueing naturally understood the intelligence. Xia Clan. They were also the clan that governed the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Their foundation was deep and unfathomable, and they were vaguely the number one clan in the entire Realm Heart Great Land. The name of this ancient nation was Summer Wind. It was evident that the number of experts they nurtured was also the highest. In terms of experts, they had slightly more than the Song Clan and the Fan Clan. In the Song Clan, the experts that the Song Clan nurtured could be considered free-range. Therefore, the experts of the Song Clan were all free and unfettered. Some of them were also rude and unreasonable, and very egotistical. As for the Fan Clan, their method of nurturing experts was more like the Black Devil Great Lake. Strictly speaking, the Black Devil Great Lake's method of selecting experts was learned from the Fan Clan. The competition within the Fan Clan was extremely intense. The strong would rise while the weak would fall. The internal rules were extremely strict, and they belonged to the most united clan amongst the three great clans in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. At the same time, they accepted all experts from outside the nation. The Song Clan and the Fan Clan were comparable in strength, but if they were to fight, the Song Clan would usually be at a disadvantage. Because the Fan Clan was more united, the rules were naturally stricter. The rules of the Fan Clan are untouchable. Dongbua Shueing sat there drinking wine by himself. There were some tiny snowflakes drifting down from the sky. Bang, bang, bang. There was a heavy knock on the door. Open the door. Dongbua Shueing ordered. Yes. The servant, Mo Long, immediately went over and opened the door to the house. Outside the door was a soldier in black armor. His eyes were cold, and the aura he emitted was at the chaotic realm. The black-armored soldier looked at Dongbua Shueing and said, Upper honored guest Feishua, I have been ordered to deliver many items. Please keep them well. After saying that, he tossed a golden bracelet over. Dongbua Shueing reached out to catch it, but before he could say anything, the other party had already turned around and left, disappearing into a streak of light. As a chaotic realm, I have become an upper adjunct. This soldier seems to be unhappy. Dongbua Shueing shook his head and smiled. Close the door. Yes, master. The demon dragon closed the door. Only then did Dongbua Shueing take out all the items from the golden bracelet and inspect them one by one. Identity talisman, scrolls, and other items. Dongbua Shueing had also obtained a detailed map of the entire Fan Clan Magic Mountain. The map also indicated the different grades of the regions. As an upper honored guest, Dongbua Shueing could visit more than half the regions of the Fan Clan Magic Mountain. Voila! Opening the greenwood scroll in his hand, lines of words appeared on it. Unphased mystical technique, 300,000 contribution points can be exchanged, honored guest elder. Heaven-suppressing ruler, peak-graded secret treasure. 200,000 contribution points can be exchanged, upper honored guest. Domain array plate, peak-graded secret treasure. 200,000 contribution points can be exchanged, upper honored guest. Chaotic origin Dao scroll, 100,000 contribution points can be exchanged, upper honored guest. Extreme Een Saber 3 scrolls, 100,000 contribution points can be exchanged, upper honored guest. Unphased Dharma body. Ancestor fan could transform his body into an unphased Dharma body. Requires 100,000 contribution points, upper honor guest, primogenitor blood. A drop of origin blood of extreme knight primogenitor. Requires 100,000 contribution points, upper honored guest. This scroll recorded many treasures that could be exchanged. The most expensive was 300,000 contribution points, and the cheapest was just 1,000 contribution points. One had to know that extreme knight primogenitor would at most bestow a drop of blood essence to his subordinates, and they could recover it after cultivating. And the origin blood was his foundation. To recover it, he had to devour large amounts of treasures. It was impossible for him to sell it. Every single treasure was recorded in detail. For instance, the heaven-suppressing ruler was a time-space lineage treasure. One had to reach the second level of cosmos god in the time-space aspect before one could grasp it. Another instance was the chaotic origin Tao scroll. One had to reach the pinnacle of voidification before one could grasp it. These cultivation techniques that could be exchanged with 100,000 contribution points were even more precious than the 5 phases sealing technique. They could be used directly to the peak realm. Like how Ancestor Fan helped to alter his body, the unphased Dharma body was at the cosmos god level. The moment it succeeded, a cultivator would directly become a cosmos god. How heaven-defying was that? But 100,000 contribution points. Just by exchanging them for cosmos crystals, one could exchange for 100 billion. Furthermore, these contribution points had to be completed by the Fan clan through life and death missions. Even experts at the level of Fiery Zhao King and Maple Nest King could only obtain a few thousand contribution points per mission. Furthermore, if the Fan clan did not issue any missions, they could not accept any. It was too difficult to gather 100,000 contribution points. It was practically impossible to gather 200,000 contribution points. Even Southern Cloud King had yet to gather 200,000 contribution points to date. Top-graded secret treasures. Dongbua Shuiying stared at those top-graded secret treasures. Top-graded secret treasures were sufficient to drive any cosmos god crazy. Like that time, when Southern Cloud King was being pursued, he had to flee in panic. Eventually, he was fortunate enough to enter an ancient historical remnant and obtain a top-graded secret treasure, the Twin Realm Blade. Only after completely grasping the top-graded secret treasure, the Twin Realm Blade, did he obtain his current status. Like Dongbua Shuiying, he was merely at the 9th level strength without any secret treasures. But if he had a secret treasure, he could directly climb to the 10th level strength. The value of top-graded secret treasures was incredibly high. The Fan clan had listed a total of 6 top-graded secret treasures on the scroll. All of them were of different types, and they were sufficient to make many experts willing to go through fire and water for them. Primogenitor origin blood? Dongbua Shuiying was also carefully reading through the records of the primogenitor origin blood. During the Second War of the Ancient Nations, Extreme Knight Primogenitor and Eternal Knight Primogenitor once worked together to fight against the 3 old ancestors of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, Emperor Summer, Emperor Tsong, and Ancestor Fan. That battle left both Extreme Knight Primogenitor and Eternal Knight Primogenitor heavily injured. They even snatched away part of the origin blood of Extreme Knight Primogenitor, and now they took out a drop of origin blood and used 100,000 contribution points to entice the honored guests. The origin blood of Extreme Knight Primogenitor was simply a legend. What exactly is the mission this time? What could make the Fan clan willing to give me 10,000 contribution points? Dongbua Shuiying was inwardly startled. Fiery Zhao King and the others could only earn a few thousand contribution points even if they risked their lives. This time, I'm not in any danger. So how did Teacher convince the Fan clan to give me 10,000 contribution points? At this moment, he still did not know how unique this mission was. That was a secret within the 3 great clans of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. It was because he had the 5 phases sealing technique and 10th level mirage and illusory realm technique that the Fan clan agreed to. Dongbua Shuiying stayed in this courtyard for 3 days. During these 3 days, even though he did not go out, he had seen the other 4 experts participating in the mission. Someone from the Icy Plains tribe? Dongbua Shui-Ing noticed another mysterious expert who came from outside the nation like him. That was a thin and small male wearing a thick robe. When Dongbua Shui-Ing turned to him, this expert from the Icy Plains tribe also turned to Dongbua Shui-Ing. Their gazes clashed, and the other party nodded slightly. The edge of his lips curled upwards. It's him, King Sauron of the Icy Plains tribe. Dongbua Shui-Ing recognized the other party. King Sauron seemed reserved, yet in reality, he was incredibly tyrannical. He had once killed one of the leaders of the Icy Plains tribe, and that leader was a cosmos god. Saying it was a tribe, in reality, it was equivalent to a third-tier nation. Because the leader was killed, that tribe was swallowed up by the surrounding tribes. 3 days later in the courtyard, a terrifying aura descended, attracting the attention of the cultivators in the 5 courtyards. That was a muscular male. The surface of his body was covered in a layer of blood flames. His aura was so strong that it made Dongbua Shui-Ing and the others feel the threat of death. "Everyone come out," this muscular male said. His voice was grand. Many doors opened. Within the 5 courtyards, the 5 chosen cultivators came out. Dongbua Shui-Ing was one of them. Chapter 1085. This muscular male, covered in blood flames, was someone Dongbua Shui-Ing could naturally recognize with a glance. He was a cosmos god from the Fan clan, Monarch Andromeda. He was also the left and right arm of sky-rending Great Paragon. He was incredibly strong and could fight against fiery Zhao King and Maple Nest King. Chi. Even though he was standing there, he was standing in midair. The blood flames beneath his feet had already turned the surrounding rocky ground into nothingness. His cold eyes swept across the 5 people in front of him. Even the 3 primal chaos experts from the Fan clan were extremely obedient at this moment. "Upper honored guest Feishua, honored guest Serone," Monarch Andromeda said. "Even though the 2 of you have been chosen, there are many disciples within my Fan clan who are unconvinced. Hence, I have to give the 2 of you a simple test. If you pass, you will naturally continue participating in the mission. Otherwise, you will lose the chance to participate in the mission. The 2 of you don't have any objections, right?" "No," Dongbua Shui-Ing answered. Serone was startled. He could not help but turn to Dongbua Shui-Ing before answering. "No." At this moment, including King Serone, the other 3 primal chaos absolute expert from the Fan clan could not help but look at Dongbua Shui-Ing. Their eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. They were even slightly unconvinced. Upper honored guest Feishua? He became an upper honored guest. He is at the primal chaos realm, yet he could become an upper honored guest? Before this, there were a few who knew that Dongbua Shui-Ing had become an upper honored guest, though Fan Tianchong and the others did not dare to spread it. After all, this mission was extremely important, and the rules of the Fan clan were strict. This was the first time these 3 core disciples from the Fan clan heard that this snow eagle was actually an upper honored guest. "I am an honored guest, and he is an upper honored guest?" Even someone as proud as King Serone could not help but feel unconvinced. After all, he had swept across many tribes in the Icy Plains and was absolutely unparalleled at the primal chaos realm. He had defeated quite a few cosmos gods, and one had died in his hands. "Since you don't have any objections, follow me," Monarch Andromeda indifferently said. "Who?" A vast flame immediately enveloped Dongbua Shui-Ing and the other 4. Monarch Andromeda brought them across the sky, and with a single teleportation, they arrived at a forbidden ground of the Fan clan Magic Mountain. Dongbua Shui-Ing felt the scene in front of his eyes turning illusory before he found himself at another location in the Fan clan Magic Mountain. In front of him was a huge lake. Surrounding the lake was a large blood-colored grassland. At this moment, there were 2 primal chaos experts standing on the blood-colored grassland. One was the snow-white armored male Fan Tianyun, whom Dongbua Shui-Ing had met before. The other was a silent male with a black cape. He was silent, yet he gave off a faint feeling of an erupting volcano, giving off an endless pressure. So. Donghua Shui Ying and the other four landed. Fan Tianyun and the Black Cloak Man looked at the five of them. Goo. In a huge lake ahead, there seemed to be a huge eye looking at the outside world through the lake water. Donghua Shui Ying and the others shuddered in fear. Danger! Danger! The feeling of threat coming from the huge eye below the lake was comparable to that of the sacred master that Donghua Shui Ying had met before. Even if it wasn't as strong, it wouldn't be much weaker. Is it an existence on the same level as my master? Donghua Shui Ying thought. Great Paragon. Monarch Andromeda bowed respectfully. This time, I will have to trouble Great Paragon to see how strong these brats are. Hua! A black-robed man suddenly appeared on the surface of the lake. He spoke indifferently. My Fan clan has lost 5 times. It is fine if the Summer clan won 3 times, but even the Song clan won twice. Even the Song clan can't compare to us. This generation of brats is truly embarrassing. The core disciples of the Fan clan revealed a look of shame. My Fan clan has never lost 6 times in history. It will be too embarrassing if we lose again. Furthermore, our Fan clan has failed to enter the Origin Realm God Palace, left behind by Yuan for 5 times. Even Master is infuriated. The black-robed male coldly looked at his younger disciples. This time, we must win. All right, this is my incarnation. If you guys defeat my incarnation, my new incarnation will become stronger until you can no longer defeat me. The more you defeat me, the stronger you are. Fan Tianyun, Fan Lai Hua, since the 2 of you aren't convinced, then go first. The black-robed male indifferently said. The snow-white armored male, Fan Tianyun, and the other black-cloaked male exchanged glances. I'll go first, Fan Tianyun said, and as Donghua Shui Ying watched from the side, a huge wave was set off in his heart. Yuan? Origin Realm God Palace? He could recognize it. This time, it was a competition between the 3 great clans of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, and only experts could enter the Origin Realm God Palace, left behind by Yuan. And with the identity of Donghua Shui Ying, he had never heard of the Origin Realm God Palace before. It is actually related to Yuan. Donghua Shui Ying thought. He reincarnated into this world by relying on the Realm Heart Order, left behind by Yuan. There were many God Yuan palaces in the Realm Heart Great Land that could determine the strength of cultivators. This also proved that the status of Yuan in the Realm Heart Great Land was transcendent. This was a mysterious and horrifying existence. Hong. Fan Tianyun and that black-robed male began fighting. The black-robed male was merely the incarnation of this mysterious great paragon residing at the bottom of the lake. Donghua Shui Ying could guess that the other party should be Ancestor Fan from how the other party said. Even his master is infuriated. In the past, when Ancestor Fan was still relatively weak, he would travel around the Realm Heart Great Land to comprehend and cultivate. At that time, he would bring along a mount, the cloud-devouring beast. And now, Ancestor Fan no longer brought along a mount when he went out. The cloud-devouring beast in the past was also a great paragon of the Fan clan. Hua! The black-robed male's body dissipated after being cleaved apart by a great axe. Closely following that, a new incarnation condensed on the surface of the lake. Once, twice, thrice, the strength displayed by Fan Tianyun startled Donghua Shui Ying slightly. The other party used a pair of axes that were more powerful and tyrannical than the Scarlet Cloud combat technique. Furthermore, Fan Tianyun's fleshy body was terrifying too. When he battled, there would be a black aura revolving around his body. As his incarnation became stronger, the strength displayed by Fan Tianyun made Donghua Shui Ying sigh. Such power was absolutely at the peak of the 10th level standard. I wonder what absolute art he cultivates that is stronger than my Scarlet Cloud combat technique in close combat. Donghua Shui Ying muttered inwardly. He had no choice. The Fan clan had quite a few powerful secret importation techniques that used axes. Even the Summer clan and Song clan had secret importation techniques that used axes. Even though the three great clans fought against each other, it was possible to learn some secret importation techniques from other clans if one were to pay a sufficient price. Pung. Fan Tianyin was blasted flying. He stopped and spoke respectfully. Great Paragon, I have already given it my all. Amen, 6 times. The black-robed man nodded. He looked at the black-cloaked man. You do it. Yes. Fan Lihua strode forward. His black cloak fluttered in the wind. His expression remained calm. Hua. A serene blade light filled with boundless death aura instantly slashed onto the black-robed man's body. A single slash dissipated the blade. The black-robed man condensed a new incarnation. 1 slash. Scatter. 1 slash. Scatter. Fan Lihua's blade was filled with death and cruelty. Just a glance at it caused Dongbua Shui Ying's eyes to shrink. Even though the Fan clan had powerful secret importation techniques, the more powerful the secret importation, the harder it was to cultivate. The only advantage of these great powers was that they could provide the most suitable secret importation techniques according to the cultivator's innate talent, allowing them to dig out their potential. If Fan Tianyin had extremely high combat techniques, like the Scarlet Cloud combat technique, which specialized in close combat, then Fan Tianyin's Laws of Axes, which specialized in close combat. As for Fan Lihua, he used a single move to dominate the world. Just a single slash. After 5 consecutive defeats, on the 6th attempt, Fan Lihua only succeeded after 2 consecutive slashes. On the 7th attempt, Fan Lihua only succeeded after 13 consecutive slashes despite being heavily injured. Pooh! Fan Lihua fell to the ground with heavy injuries. He crawled back up. His injuries were rapidly recovering as he said with a low voice, Great Paragon, I've already given it my all. Fan Tianyin's expression turned slightly ugly when he saw that. Fan Lihua had actually defeated him once more. Next is the 2 of you. The black-robed man looked at the 2 outsiders who were chosen this time. There's no need to be anxious. Let me go first. Sauron Kingdom smiled at Dongbua Shuang. All the core disciples present looked at Dongbua Shuang with a slightly special gaze. Upper honored guest. What did this primal chaos expert rely on to become an upper honored guest? King Sauron did not use any weapons. Instead, he fought barehanded. Icy Plains tribe. This was the territory of the Icy Snow Ancient Nation. The 3 old ancestors of the Icy Snow Ancient Nation had all reached the unparalleled realm in body cultivation. Therefore, in terms of body tempering, the Icy Snow Ancient Kingdom was the most terrifying and heaven-defying. As for the Icy Plains tribe, being within its sphere of influence, its body refining techniques were also very impressive. King Sauron also had some special encounters, causing his body refining techniques to be exceptionally terrifying. Of course, even though the Icy Plains tribe was within the territory of the Icy Snow Ancient Country, the Fan clan was still able to infiltrate it. King Sauron had clearly chosen to join the Fan clan as an honored guest because the cultivation techniques of the Icy Snow Ancient Country were too monotonous. There were countless heaven-defying body refinement techniques, but the other Dao paths were too weak. As for the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, it was more comprehensive and had what he wanted. Boom, boom, boom. He consecutively destroyed 6 of the black-clothed incarnations in close combat, and it was clear that the 7th time was much more difficult. However, at that moment, he let out a laugh. His laughter was vigorous and vast, and the sound waves produced by his voice attacked the black-clothed incarnation in a strange manner, affecting the strength of the black-clothed incarnation and immediately defeating the 7th incarnation. In the end, he defeated the 8th incarnation. King Sauron finally stopped. Fan Tianyin and Fan Lihua were speechless. 8 times. No wonder the Fan clan would invite outsiders. It is your turn. The gaze of the black-clothed male landed on the distant Dongbua Shuang. At that moment, King Sauron, Fan Lihua, Fan Tianyin, and the other 3 core disciples turned to Dongbua Shuang. Even Monarch Andromeda turned to Dongbua Shuang, becoming an upper honored guest at the primal chaos realm. How strong was this Shan, Snow, Eagle exactly? Dongbua Shui Ying stepped forward. He walked to the lakeside and saw the black-clothed male standing on the lake. He immediately bowed. Great Paragon, pardon me for offending you. Chapter 1086. Becoming an upper honored guest at the primal chaos realm? The black-robed male looked at Dongbua, swaying with interest. Let me see your strength. Huh. Dongbua Shui Ying flipped his hand, causing the 5-phase beads bracelet to appear on his wrist. The surface of the 5 beads emitted a faint light, and Dongbua Shui Ying's palm abruptly expanded. 5 dimmed light revolved on the surface of his 5 fingers, forming a huge palm. It covered the world as it slapped towards the black-robed male on the surface of the lake. Pong! The huge palm smacked that black-robed male apart with a single slap. This is the 5 phases sealing technique. The 5 core disciples from the Fan clan and King Sauron were watching carefully because this was the first time they witnessed the 5 phases sealing technique. Even though this secret importation technique was famous, few experts could execute it. Furthermore, there was only Dongbua Shui Ying at the primal chaos realm who could execute it. A single move and a spatial seal? It seems there is no way to dodge it, right? There's no way to dodge it. The entire space has been sealed, and one has to resist against it. As for its power, I can't see it yet. Across the entire realm heart great land, these primal chaos experts present were all heaven-defying existences. Their eyesight was also sharp. They first discovered a heaven-defying aspect of the 5 phases sealing technique. It could not be dodged. Much less them, even an absolute majority of cosmos gods could not dodge it. This was a technique they had to receive. Only rare existences like Southern Cloud King could evade this technique. Even if they had that strength, they would disdain from doing so. Slightly interesting. The black-robed male condensed once again on the surface of the lake. He praised, "You can completely seal and isolate space. The only weakness is that your sealing technique is slightly weaker. To Great Paragon, this technique of mine is naturally nothing much." Dongbua Shui Ying said. He then sent another palm out. An enormous palm spanning a few hundred meters slapped the incarnation of the black-robed male to death. Again and again. Every time Dongbua Shui Ying used a single palm. When the 6th incarnation was killed by Dongbua Shui Ying, the expressions of King Sauron, Fan Lai Hua, Fan Tianyun, and the others changed slightly. I only managed to kill the 6th incarnation through close combat and many moves. King Sauron thought, yet he destroyed it with a single palm. This 5 phases sealing art is indeed as tyrannical as described in the legends. How domineering. Fan Tianyun felt his heart trembling. He had risked his life just to defeat the 6th incarnation. Yet this snow eagle was exterminated with a single palm. The gap was clear. Even the black-cloaked male Fan Lai who had carefully inspected Shan Snow Eagle. I've defeated the 6th incarnation and slashed out twice. He even used a total of 13 slashes to defeat the 7th incarnation. In terms of dominance, he's above me. Hua. The black-robed man condensed an incarnation for the 7th time. Everyone was watching. Dongbua Shui Ying was still standing there as he sent another palm strike down. Hong long long. Even though the black-robed man tried to resist, he was still turned into dust. Still killed in one move? This, too tyrannical. Fan Lai Hua and Fan Tianyun, who were ostracized, as well as the other 3 core disciples who were more outstanding, felt their eyes dilate. Defeating 7 incarnations was nothing to the 3 of them who were chosen. But just one move? That was slightly horrifying. The black-robed man condensed his 8th incarnation. Dongbua Shui Ying sent another palm strike down. The black-robed man defended against it once again. His hands displayed a technique, causing black clouds to revolve. In the past, the black-robed man was extinguished. This time, the body of the black-robed man trembled slightly, yet he resisted against it. Donghua Shui Ying's palm struck out 5 times at extremely fast speed, forcibly dissipating the black-robed man. Only then did he slightly bow before retreating to the side of King Sauron. The two of you saw it, right? Monarch Andromeda looked at Fan Tianyun and Fan Laihua. The two of them have defeated 8 incarnations. The two of you have nothing to say, right? Fan Tianyun and Fan Laihua became silent. That's right. They lost. This was personally investigated by Great Paragon Heaven Devourer. It was impossible for Great Paragon Heaven Devourer to be biased towards outsiders. Go back and cultivate properly. Don't think that the disciples of the Fan clan are invincible. Even those small nations that don't have good teachers or cultivation techniques can still have primal chaos experts that are stronger than you. Monarch Andromeda shouted. Yes. Fan Laihua and Fan Tianyun felt even worse. Go. Monarch Andromeda waved his hand. Wong, the space around Fan Laihua and Fan Tianyun was teleported away. The two of them disappeared. Upper honored guest Fei Shue, do you dare to compete with me? Among the 3 chosen core disciples, there was a skinny young man wearing green armor. His eyes were like lightning as he shouted out. At this moment, he took the initiative to erupt his power. One could see terrifying lightning snakes revolving around his body. In terms of power, he seemed to be comparable to Monarch Andromeda. Even when Donghua Shui executed the 5 phases sealing technique previously, he did not have such a terrifying aura. There's no need. Donghua Shui chuckled. The candidates have already been decided. There's no need to fight anymore. You don't even have this bit of courage? The skinny young man roared. Enough. Monarch Andromeda frowned. This is the territory of a great paragon. Don't be impudent. Yes. The skinny young man obediently replied. Great paragon. Monarch Andromeda immediately bowed. The few of us will be leaving first. As for Donghua, Shui Ying, and the other 4 primal chaos existences, they bowed respectfully too. You primal chaos existences of this generation better not embarrass my Fan clan. The black-robed incarnation dissipated after saying that. One could vaguely see an enormous eye at the bottom of the lake. Let's go. Monarch Andromeda brought along Donghua, Shui Ying, and the other 4. They turned into the sky and left. Are we just going to let the 2 of them suppress our Fan clan disciples so arrogantly? The skinny young man in green armor transmitted to his 2 companions. There was a strand of viciousness on his face. Fan Tianyun and the other 2 are trash. I still think the 2 of them are sufficient to embarrass the 2 outsiders. If the 3 of us don't act, they might think that our Fan clan's primal chaos existences are weaker than the 2 of them. The young girl transmitted from the side. Ichien, that King Sauron is fine since it isn't hard to defeat him. Furthermore, according to what I know, that King Sauron has a violent temper. As long as we provoke him once or twice, he will easily fight. It's just that Jon Snow Eagle is slightly troublesome. Previously, when he fought with the incarnation of a great paragon, he stood at his original position from start to end. He did not move a single step. The moment his 5 phases sealing technique was unleashed, the other party could not dodge at all. He could only block it head-on. If he could break it apart, he would win. If he could not, he would lose. I don't have the confidence. Even though your big brother cultivates the unfazed mystical technique, he only has a 50% chance of defeating Jon Snow Eagle. Only you are famous for your strength. You specialize in breaking techniques with your strength. You are most suitable to deal against that Jon Snow Eagle. The only problem is that he has been avoiding battle. I know that his 5 phases sealing technique requires 6 consecutive strikes before he could shatter the 8th incarnation of a great paragon. My rod technique might not be able to reach the state of unavoidable, but in the past, I was able to shatter the 8th incarnation of a great paragon with a single strike. The 9th incarnation is too good at dodging, and my rod could not touch it. The green-armored, thin, and weak teenager transmitted. As long as we fight head-on, I'll absolutely be able to break apart his 5 phases sealing technique. Big brother, what do you think about defeating him? That was a simple-looking, gray-robed male. In the Fan clan, most experts had an incredibly strong, killing intent and even viciousness. But this simple-looking, gray-robed male had a gentle aura. All primal chaos experts in the Fan clan respected him greatly. He was even favored by Ancestor Fan and was bestowed with the unfazed mystical technique. One had to know that in the exchange list for honored guests, this was something that required the identity of an honored guest elder and a total of 300,000 contribution points. He was none other than the disciple that the Fan clan nurtured the most in this generation, Fan Sanyuan. Fan Sanyuan, Fan Emoju, and Fan Ichien. The three of them were unquestionably the strongest primal chaos experts in the Fan clan. Fan Ichien was also the green-armored thin and weak male. He was proud and arrogant, yet he admired Fan Sanyuan the most. Ichien, the simple-looking gray-robed male, transmitted, "You should first defeat King Sauron before entering the courtyard of Snow Eagle to challenge him. If he isn't willing, you can just stay in his courtyard and not leave." Good idea. The green-armored thin and weak male's eyes brightened at that moment. The simple-looking gray-robed male revealed a grin. Given his personality, it was impossible for him to do such rude and unreasonable things. But being rude and overbearing was something Fan Ichien loved the most. Fan Ichien looked at the white-robed young man by the side. He thought, "Still an upper honored guest? In a while, I'll beat you down." Chapter 1087. The simple-looking, gray-robed male Fan Sanyuan also glanced at the white-robed young man by the side. "My summer wind ancient nation has a vast territory with many experts. Even if the entire Black Devil Four nations were added up, it would merely be a small corner of the summer wind ancient nation. My Fan clan is one of the three great clans in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. There are many cosmos gods guiding us, and we have all sorts of treasures aiding us. Furthermore, we have the most suitable secret importation technique that could lead us to the peak. If we can't even defeat a little brat from the Black Devil Four nations, then it would truly be a disgrace to this generation of our Fan clan's younger generation." Although Fan Sanyuan appeared gentle, he was very proud and aloof in his heart. His temperament was more similar to that of the Summer Clan's disciples. He did not like to slaughter, but he still had an instinctive sense of contempt towards foreign countries. It would be a disgrace if they couldn't match up to the experts from other countries. Ichien is good at using brute force to break through techniques. That is the best way to counter him. Let's use this to see how strong he is, Fan Sanyuan thought. Very soon, Monarch Andromeda brought the five of them back to their residence and descended on the mountain peak. In a few months, it will be the competition between the three clans. Monarch Andromeda swept his gaze over them. "You must do your best. If you two guest elders fail, the promised rewards will be greatly reduced." Dongbua, Shui Ying, and King Sauron were filled with battle intent. Naturally, he had to do his best to succeed. Back then, they had agreed that they would only be rewarded with 10,000 contribution points after the mission was completed. The Fan clan's rule had always been, for the mercenaries and honored guests to accept the mission, they would naturally be rewarded in full if they succeeded. But if they failed, the Fan clan would not be as generous as before. If a mission failed, there would usually be no credit. Some missions were special. Even if there was no merit, there would still be hard work. For example, this time, both Dongbua Shuiying and King Sauron had their own missions. If they failed, they would only receive 10% of the merit. After saying that, Monarch Andromeda turned into a streak of light and left. Dongbua Shuiying turned around and returned to his house. King Sauron also returned to his residence, and the three core disciples of the Fan clan looked at each other. King Sauron. The green-armored skinny man, Fan Ichien, shouted. He then directly entered King Sauron's residence. King Sauron looked at the green-armored skinny man with puzzlement. "I wonder what's the matter?" "He, from the Icy Plains tribe? You seem pretty powerful. You dare to fight with me?" Fan Ichien sneered, his face naturally filled with contempt. This was not a deliberate provocation, but rather his personality was like this. Upon seeing this, King Sauron's face sank, and his eyes were filled with an ominous glint. He had swept across many tribes in the icy plains, and had even fought with many cosmos gods. It had been a very long time since anyone dared to look down on him in the chaotic icy plains tribe. This was the Fan clan. Hence, King Sauron felt that he was keeping a low profile since he came from one of the apex clans in the entire Realm Heart Great Land. But since he had stepped on his head, how could he avoid it? All right, King Sauron grinned and said, "Then I shall accompany you." "Ha, this feels great." Fan Ichin bellowed. A simple and unadorned bronze long rod appeared in his hand, and he swung it. There were surging thunderbolts on the long rod. In almost an instant, the long rod had already smashed in front of King Sauron. Rumble, this was an extremely brutal and barbaric battle. One of them was the most tyrannical primal chaos expert in the Fan clan, and he was known for his strength. His degree of barbarism was far beyond that of Fan Tianchong. The other was someone who had swept across many tribes in the icy plains. He relied on true slaughter to forge his name, and even the higher-ups of the Fan clan took the initiative to invite him over. Amen? Within his courtyard, Dongbua Shui Ying's ears twitched. He was able to sense a terrifying disturbance occurring within the residence of King Sauron. But there were arrays operating within that residence, blocking all the shockwaves from the disturbance. Hence, it did not leak out. There are Fan San Yuan and Fan Mo Zhu outside. Then the one fighting with King Sauron should be Fan Yiqian? Dongbua Shuang thought. Fan Yiqian should be cultivating some kind of mysterious lightning lineage absolute art scripture. Dongbua Shuang knew the origins of the absolute arts that Fan San Yuan and Fan Mo Zhu specialized in. For instance, Fan San Yuan's unfazed mystical technique was created by Ancestor Fan. Fan Mo Zhu's absolute art, 3,000 Swords, was created by Emperor Summer. Fan Yiqian's cultivation scripture was not recorded in the outside world. One only knew that it was a heaven-defying lightning lineage scripture that was famous for being tyrannical. There were indeed some mysterious scriptures in the Realm Heart Great Land. For instance, scriptures left behind by terrifying existences that had fallen. If the scripture did not record the creator, nobody would know who the creator was. For instance, some huge organizations like the Fan clan would usually keep their most important scriptures mysterious. It was hard to find much information about them in the outside world. The name was not publicized. The creator was not publicized. As for how terrifying it was not publicized either. Only after experiencing it in combat could one gradually guess part of its power. Jia. The courtyard door of King Sauron's residence opened. Ha ha ha. The thin and weak Fan Yiqian walked out. His face was filled with smiles. He was laughing delightfully. And within the residence, the undamaged King Sauron had a gloomy expression. He is actually strong to such an extent. It's a pity that this courtyard is too small, and the area I can evade is too small. If the area was big enough, he wouldn't be able to defeat me. King Sauron had dominated the icy plains tribe, and he specialized in escaping. This time, the two of them fought within the courtyard. When they fought, the arrays were activated to prevent the courtyard from being destroyed and also to reduce the area of combat to this small courtyard. King Sauron glanced at the door of the courtyard before it closed. And outside, Fan San Yuan and Fan Mo Zhu both walked over. They asked, "How was it?" "I won." Fan Yiqian was relatively delighted. But following that, he helplessly said, "But he is very formidable. His sound wave technique made me dizzy, and it is hard to deal with him in close combat." Under a moment of anger, I executed a forbidden technique, causing my strength to erupt and sweep across the entire courtyard. He had nowhere to escape to, and was forced to admit defeat by me. If we weren't in the courtyard, I'm afraid I wouldn't have one. He forced you to execute a forbidden technique. Fan San Yuan and Fan Mo Zhu exchanged glances. They were startled. The outside world did not know. But the two of them knew that Fan Yiqian cultivated a horrifying absolute art scripture left behind by that mysterious Yuan. Fan Yiqian was fortunate enough to resonate with this scripture, allowing him to cultivate it. Even great paragons were slightly envious of him. The scripture left behind by Yuan depended on fate and luck. If great paragons could not resonate with the scripture, they could not cultivate it. This scripture which Fan Yiqian cultivated was considered normal. It was just that its strength was tyrannical. But the moment he executed a forbidden technique, it would be heaven-defying. Fan Yiqian mentioned before that this absolute art scripture had a total of 3 forbidden techniques. Currently, he could only execute one. If he executed 2 forbidden techniques, his soul would directly collapse and his body would die. I'll go finding Shan Snow Eagle. At this moment, Fan Yiqian was filled with fighting spirit. He walked to the entrance of Dongbua Shui Ying's courtyard. Dong dong dong, he knocked heavily on the door. Fan San Yuan and Fan Mo Zhu were watching too. Just when the courtyard over at King Sauron's side became quiet, Dongbua Shui Ying soon discovered someone knocking heavily on his courtyard door. Dongbua Shui Ying turned towards the door. He glanced at his servant, the magic dragon. The magic dragon immediately opened the door. Hua! The green-armored thin male Fan Yiqian directly took a step in. He swaggered in and sneered at Dongbua Shui Ying. King Sauron has been defeated by me. Now, it's your turn. Dongbua Shui Ying was slightly startled. King Sauron has been defeated by you. Didn't you hear what I said? It's your turn now. Fan Yiqian sneered. Why the need for this? Dongbua Shui Ying said. His teacher had already transmitted a message to remind him of the 3 great clans in the Summer Wind ancient nation. The Fan clan was tyrannical and cruel internally. In addition to that, they naturally looked down on the surrounding nations. If he were to slap the face of the Fan clan too much, it would most likely incur more troubles. In the Fan clan, he was ultimately an honored guest. You don't even have the slightest bit of courage? Fan Yiqian sneered. He held onto the bronze rod with a single hand before slamming it heavily on the ground. He roared, since I'm not going to fight, I'll be waiting here. I want to see how long a coward like you can endure for. How dare you? The magic dragon could no longer tolerate it. Shut up, Fan Yiqian roared. A terrifying thunder erupted on the surface of his body. Those thunder directly enveloped the magic dragon, causing the magic dragon to feel the threat of death. Fan Yiqian grinned, revealing his white teeth. If not for you being an upper honored guest invited by my Fan clan, I would have long devoured you with a single bite if you dared to be so impudent. Dongbua Shui Ying frowned slightly. He stood up. Fan Yiqian revealed a joyous look as he looked at Dongbua Shui Ying. Why? You finally dare to fight. Please. Dongbua Shui Ying stood there. You first. Fan Yiqian held onto the bronze rod. He was filled with confidence. He was prepared. The moment the 5 phases sealing technique came, he would immediately break it apart with a single rod. All right. Dongbua Shui Ying nodded. A golden bell appeared by his waist. The golden bell was swaying as it let out a ringing sound. Ding, 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 ding. The sweet-sounding ringing resounded in Fan Yiqian's mind. It possessed a fatal effect of seduction. Fan Yiqian stood there in a daze. His face even revealed a silly smile. No other choice. Of the 2 major moves of the Devil Heart Bell, Dongbua Shui Ying had unleashed the power of the bewildering sound to the 9th level. This was merely a supplementary seduction technique, but the illusory world contained within was at the 10th level. The combination of the 2 major moves. Fan Yiqian was originally known for his strength, but his soul resistance was weak. He could be said to be the weakest among the 3 core disciples chosen by the Fan clan. Hence, he was struck in an instant. Truly, Dongbua Shui Ying shook his head and waved his hand. Pong! An unseen ripple slammed on a Fan Yiqian's body. Fan Yiqian was sent flying before crashing onto the ground. His face smashed onto the ground. His mouth was filled with mud, and the bronze rod in his hand smashed onto his head. Only then did Fan Yiqian wake up in a daze. This was after Dongbua Shui Ying retracted the illusory realm technique. Otherwise, he would still be trapped within. What happened to me? Fan Yiqian was still in a daze. He saw himself lying on the ground with a bronze rod beside him. His mouth was filled with mud. I lost. Pu. Fan Yiqian spat out the mud in his mouth. He was shocked in his heart. He turned his head with slight fear and looked at the white-robed young man who was still standing at the same spot. He remembered that he heard the melodious ringing of the bell before he fell to the ground. Chapter 1088. Jia. The courtyard door opened. Fan San Yuan and Fan Mo Zhu, who were outside, hurriedly looked into the courtyard. They saw the thin and weak Fan Yiqian, who was wearing green armor, walk out shakily. There was a hint of confusion on his face. Following that, the courtyard door closed. Why did you come out? Fan San Yuan felt puzzled. If he chose to avoid the battle, didn't I ask you to stay in his courtyard? Fan Mo Zhu added from the side. If he chose to chase you away, you can take the chance to fight with him. We fought. Fan Yiqian looked ahead in a daze. He muttered. We fought. Fan San Yuan and Fan Mo Zhu felt their hearts trembling. They could not help but glance at each other. The two of them were just outside the courtyard. Even though there were arrays operating in this courtyard that isolated sound and ordinary disturbances, what level of frightening ripples would there be when a 10th level expert battled? They could feel it in the outside world, much less Fan Yiqian, who specialized in breaking techniques with brute force. But they did not feel any disturbances at all previously. And Fan Yiqian came out too quickly. He had only just gone in, and he had only spoken a few words, and he was already out, and they even fought. What happened? Fan San Yuan asked. We lost. Fan Yiqian muttered. We lost wholeheartedly. Let's go. We aren't his opponent at all. Saying that, Fan Yiqian turned around and left. He headed back to his courtyard. What exactly happened? Fan San Yuan and Fan Mo Zhu felt puzzled. Yiqian's personality is the most ruthless and unreasonable. He is also extremely proud in his heart. Fan Mo Zhu's eyes flashed with a strange light. He looked at the courtyard of Dongbua Shuang by the side, but if he lost to someone at the same level, and if he lost badly, it would most likely agitate him. Among the primal chaos experts in our fan clan, only Big Brother could barely suppress him. But this time, there were no disturbances at all, and he came out so quickly. This shows that Shan Snow Eagle should have easily defeated Yiqian in 1 or 2 moves. He lost too badly. Fan San Yuan softly nodded. Fan Yiqian's strength was extremely frightening, especially after he executed the forbidden technique. Shan Snow Eagle defeated Yiqian stealthily? It's not the 5 phases sealing art. Fan Mo Zhu said. It should be some other secret art that could easily defeat Yiqian. It should not be any weaker than the 5 phases sealing technique. Fan San Yuan softly nodded. There were some that were not inferior to the 5 phases sealing technique and were also silent. For example, curses, prophecy, mirage, and illusory realms, as well as extremely complicated formations, and even terrifying time-related secret techniques that could jump out of the timeline. These were all silent. If one did not care about the commotion, then there were even more secret techniques that could defeat Fan Yiqian. Ancestor Fan, Emperor Summer, and the others created secret arts that could theoretically be achieved. Tian, Yuan Shan, Xian, Yuan Tian, Yuan. Of Yuan of. Fan Yiqian had yet to reach the pinnacle of his own cultivation method, and he could only use one forbidden art. It seems Great Paragon and the others have agreed to let this Shan Snow Eagle become an upper honor guest of my fan clan. It seems logical. Fan San Yuan said. He no longer had the thought of fighting. Once the competition between the 3 clans begins, we'll know his background, said Fan Mo Zhu with a smile. Amen. It is good that he is strong. It is also a good thing for our fan clan. Fan San Yuan nodded lightly. Although he was an extremely proud person, when he was surpassed, he would only respect Dongbua Shuang even more. He would also work hard to cultivate and surpass Dongbua Shuang. The world of cultivators was like this. The summer wind, ancient nation, looked down on the surrounding nations. But there were a few existences that could win their respect. For instance, Southern Cloud King. Now it's quiet. Dongbua Shui shook his head lightly. He was not willing to make too many enemies within the Fan clan, because in his cultivation plans, the Fan clan was extremely important. After becoming a cosmos god, he would naturally send an avatar back to his hometown Primal Chaos Void so that he could understand the happenings there. But no matter if it was the destruction devils that were getting stronger and stronger, or the sacred master, both forced Dongbua Shui Ying to become stronger. One had to know that the secret treasures over at his hometown Primal Chaos Void were much cruder. They could not reach the stage of fighting against those of a higher realm. The Primal Chaos realm could only reach the 9th level. It was hard for cosmos gods to fight against those of a higher realm in their hometown. It is hard to deal against the sacred master in my hometown. I have to rely on the precious scriptures in the Fan clan. Only then can I improve faster. This time, the opportunity to earn contribution points is hard to come by. I must complete this mission perfectly. Dongbua Shui Ying sat in the courtyard for a moment. No one came knocking on his door. He knew that the 3 core disciples would not disturb him anymore. He immediately stood. Magic Dragon, if there isn't anything important, don't disturb me. Dongbua Shui Ying ordered. Yes, master. The servant Magic Dragon looked at Dongbua Shui Ying with a gaze filled with worship. That core disciple of the Fan clan who defeated King Sauron was actually defeated by his master in a single move. His master was too formidable. Dongbua Shui Ying entered the cultivation room of this courtyard and began cultivating quietly. The Fan clan provided the 5 experts who were participating in the competition between the 3 clans. Other places were fine, but this cultivation room was of the highest grade. Sitting cross-legged here, Dongbua Shui Ying could feel the energy of the arrays revolving around him, nourishing his fleshy body and soul. The effect was so good that it was much better than the Void God Pagoda, which he paid a huge price to construct in Feishua City. No choice. The Fan clan was naturally extraordinary. It's a pity that he could not stay here for long. Wang. Dongbua Shui closed his eyes. He began recalling his harvest from the previous battles. Naturally, it wasn't his fight with Fan Yiqian. That fight was too simple. Instead, it was when he defeated the incarnation of Great Paragon Devouring Cloud. Especially during the 8th time, he only defeated him after 6 consecutive strikes. Facing against the techniques of Great Paragon Devouring Cloud, Dongbua Shui Ying's 5 phases sealing technique changed accordingly. The 5 phases rotated as he searched for the weakness of the other party. Those 6 consecutive palms had variations in every palm. 5 phases rotation. Dongbua Shui Ying recalled and absorbed some insights. Suddenly, he thought of the voidification technique. Rotation? Dongbua Shui Ying felt his heart move. At that moment, a flash of inspiration appeared. He had been researching on the voidification technique for far too long. In his previous life, he had reached the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm in the Walker's hidden secret, reaching the 50th level. Emperor Jiyun had also cultivated the voidification technique to a stage where he could no longer improve further. He had always been comprehending the scaled armor of General Mo Gu. After reincarnating into the Realm Heart Great Land, he first reached the 10th level grand perfection in the Southern Cloud Sacred Body. He cultivated the 5 phases sealing technique, allowing his understanding of the 5 Tao paths of the void to reach the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. Furthermore, he researched on the innate profound mysteries of voidification from many insects of the void lineage. Continuous accumulations had long allowed Dongbua Shui Ying to fuse the inscriptions on General Mo Gu's scaled armor into one furnace. It's just that he lacked an opportunity when fusing them together. At this moment, within this cultivation room, as he recalled the 5 phases rotation, he comprehended where the opportunity was. Why the need to fuse them together forcefully? It should be rotated, and the strong and weak can change at any time. Dongbua Shui Ying understood in his heart. Wang, The surrounding void of Dongbua Shui Ying, who was seated cross-legged, abruptly distorted. Many colorful lights were distorting. These distorted colorful lights fused into a black hole. At the center of the black hole was Dongbua Shui. Even if heaven and earth perish, I will not perish. Unless I have the power to break the cage of the origin world will not be harmed, and neither will I be harmed. Dongbua Shui smiled. Back then, Saint Master had always wanted to deal with Emperor Jiyun. Even during the battle where the primitive ancient sacred world was shattered, he had risked his life and only managed to severely injure Emperor Jiyun, allowing Emperor Jiyun to escape. In the end, Saint Master did not manage to obtain the 3 hells of Fire Cauldron. This was the terrifying aspect of the pinnacle of voidification. Only with the power to break the origin world could one injure an expert at the pinnacle of voidification. It was just injuring, but to truly kill them was too difficult. For example, Dongbua Shui Ying's Arch of Heaven Breaker could only shatter a few black fog spherical particles. If such a move was used against Dongbua Shui Ying, it would only be able to kill a single cell. Hence, pinnacle of voidification was something that many experts pursued. Even Dongbua Shui Ying's master, Gu Qi, had not reached the pinnacle of voidification. Only the creator of the Voidwalker lineage, Void Primogenitor, could do it. This step was very difficult. Those who became a cosmos god using the Tao of voidification could not obtain the secret technique, and some could not even create it. Yet they created it at the primal chaos realm. That was simply unfathomable. In the primal chaos void, the destruction devils could stealthily penetrate through the void barrier erected by the cultivators just because of their shadowless talent, causing many disasters. The moment one reached the pinnacle of voidification, that would be a true qualitative change. Only with 9 Tao reincarnations could one be undying. This voidification technique of mine shall be called the 9-rotation undying technique. Dongbua Shui Ying chuckled. Who would have thought that after cultivating bitterly for so many years, reincarnating until now, and accumulating so many accumulations, it was still at the Fan Clan Magic Mountain that I comprehended it. At the same time, when he comprehended the 9-rotation undying technique, Dongbua Shui Ying immediately felt that he could break through to the cosmos god realm as long as he continued researching the Tao of Void. His accumulations were too deep. The 5 phases sealing technique and the even more difficult 9-rotation undying technique. Furthermore, the 9-rotation undying technique was self-created. With such a foundation, he could easily break through to the cosmos god realm using the Tao of Void. There's no rush. I still have to participate in the competition between the 3 clans of the Fan Clan. If I were to break through to the cosmos god realm now, I would no longer be qualified to participate. Dongbua Shui Ying thought. Let's wait. It will begin soon anyway. After the competition between the 3 clans ends, I'll break through to the cosmos god realm. By then, I should send my avatars back to my hometown. Jing Xiu, Qing Yao. At this moment, Dongbua Shui Ying was filled with longing for his wife and children. Were they fine after leaving their hometown for so long? Wait a little longer. Wait a little longer. Dongbua Shui Ying advised himself. Asterisk, he had yet to think of the following competition between the 3 clans. He was slightly stuck, and today was the last day. Star. Chapter 1089. Just a month or so after creating the 9-rotation undying technique. Fellow cultivators, it is time to set off. A voice reverberated across the 5 residences. Within the 5 residences, Fan San Yuan, Fan Mo Zhu, Fan Yi Qian, King Sauron, and Dongbua Shui Ying soon came out. It is finally time for the competition between the 3 clans. Dongbua Shui Ying chuckled. To him, the competition between the 3 clans was primarily for the 10,000 contribution points. The moment the mission was completed, he would immediately enter closed-door cultivation before breaking through to the cosmos god realm. He would then send his avatar back to his hometown, Primal Chaos Void. And at this moment, Fan San Yuan and the others, including King Sauron, turned to Dongbua Shuang, because they knew Fan Yiqian was defeated in a single move by Snow Eagle. Ha! Even if you're stronger, it is better for all of you to display it later. Monarch Andromeda stood there laughing. Only by defeating the Tsang clan and Summer clan can we call that strength. Yes, Fan San Yuan softly nodded. This time, we will definitely win. The thin Fan Yiqian had long regained his fighting spirit. He growled. His eyes were filled with lightning. Everyone come up. By the side of Monarch Andromeda was a luxurious carriage. It was relatively big, and Monarch Andromeda had already entered the carriage. At the same time, he called out to those outside. Dongbua Shuang and the others immediately flew up. Looking from the outside, the carriage was only a few meters long and wide. But within, it was several dozen meters long. They were seated cross-legged within the carriage. Set off. Monarch Andromeda also sat cross-legged and ordered. Yes. The attendant outside the carriage respectfully answered. Ho! The mutated beast arced through the sky. It pulled the luxurious carriage away from the Fan clan Magic Mountain. Dongbua Shuang was also looking out from within the carriage. This carriage had already arrived above some of the flourishing streets of the Summerwind capital. The competition between the three clans has always been conducted within the royal palace. Monarch Andromeda explained. By then, Ancestor Fan, Emperor Summer, and Emperor Tsang will be spectating. Furthermore, the great paragons from the three great clans and several experts from other clans in my Summerwind Ancient Nation will be here too. This is already the highest level competition between the three great clans of my Summerwind Ancient Nation. The three clans were ultimately part of the Summerwind Ancient Nation, sending the most outstanding primal chaos existences to fight was more or less sufficient. Higher? Letting cosmos gods fight? One had to know that cosmos gods specialized in all sorts of things. Some cosmos gods had techniques that even unparalleled existences could not stop in time. It was easy for them to lose control. Furthermore, whether it was invincible existences or grand monarchs, it was very, very difficult for a new expert to emerge. If it were always the same experts, the competition would be meaningless. Instead, many juniors would appear at the primal chaos realm, and there would be variables in the battle. It seems they view it highly. Ancestor Fan and the other two unparalleled existences are here to spectate the battle. The various great paragons are here too. Dongbua Shuang was startled inwardly. The higher-ups of the Summerwind Ancient Nation were all here. Summerwind Ancient Nation, Royal Palace. It was a huge and vast hall. The hall was shrouded in clouds and mist. One could not even see the dome with the naked eye. It was as if the space was infinite. There was a black-robed male seated on the throne. His aura was illusory. Looking downwards, it felt as if the firmament was looking down on the masses. Even the surrounding cosmos gods did not dare to be disrespectful, because this was the emperor of the Summerwind Ancient Nation. He was someone whom even unparalleled existences like Ancestor Fan and Emperor Tsang were willing to assist. For instance, the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation had 5 ancestors, but they did not accept each other, and they did not even have a nominal supreme leader. But the Summerwind Ancient Nation was comparatively more united. The supreme leader of the Summerwind Ancient Nation was the Emperor of the Summerwind Ancient Nation, Emperor Summer. Aha, Brother Fan, your Fan clan has lost 5 times already. If you lose again, it will be the 6th time. Ever since we obtained the Origin Realm God Palace during the Second War of the Ancient Nations, your Fan clan hasn't lost 6 times in a row, right? Emperor Summer chuckled as he looked at the blurred figure to his right. The appearance of Ancestor Fan was ever-changing. Different people would see it differently. Emperor Summer, it might not be certain this time. Ancestor Fan indifferently said, Younger Brother Fan, you should know that the Summer clan has 2 absolute geniuses in this generation. They are much stronger than the previous 5 times. TSK, my Tsang clan could still win twice out of the previous 5 times. This time, my Tsang clan isn't confident of winning. Emperor Tsong said from the side. Even though Emperor Tsong was seated there, his surroundings were vast and boundless. On the surface of his body, there seemed to be many worlds being born and destroyed at the same time. The surrounding was vast and boundless, causing every cosmos god to feel their hearts palpitating. It doesn't matter if we lose this time. After all, my Tsong clan has won twice out of the previous 5 times. My Summer clan has won thrice out of the previous 5 times. Emperor Summer deliberately added. Ancestor Fan lightly snorted. The 3 old fellows might be bickering, but in reality, they were as close as brothers. After all, there are too few who could discuss Tao with them on the path of cultivation. But this time we have to win. Ancestor Fan looked down at the great paragons of the Fan clan, like Skyrending Great Paragon, Blood Lotus Great Paragon, and others. It has been a long time since my Fan clan sent great paragons into the Origin Realm God Palace. The few of them should be feeling anxious. The Origin Realm God Palace was left behind by Yuan. It was also one of the most important treasures fought over during the Second War of the Ancient Nations. That battle caused the world to collapse, and even unparalleled existences fell. There were even more who were heavily injured. For instance, 2 from the Primogenitor Ancient Nation had once fought against the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. For instance, Extreme Knight Primogenitor was heavily injured, and quite a lot of his origin blood was taken away. Eternal Knight Primogenitor had also escaped with heavy injuries in that battle. The 2 strongest ancient nations, Myriad Realms Ancient Nation and Summer Wind Ancient Nation, had a huge harvest. The Summer Wind Ancient Nation obtained the Origin Realm God Palace. In the early stages, Emperor Summer, Ancestor Fan, and Emperor Tsong would take turns to enter the Origin Realm God Palace. But they had to spend a long time before they could enter again. After the 3 of them entered, they discovered that it was hard for them to improve. Hence, they gradually passed the opportunity to the juniors. Even though they were juniors, in reality, they were the great paragons from the 3 great clans. How would they arrange the opportunity to enter? After all, the Summer clan was the strongest with a total of 9 great paragons. If the 3 great clans took turns to enter, it would be unfair to the Summer clan. After all, Emperor Summer had contributed the most in obtaining the Origin Realm God Palace. After that, the 3 old ancestors decided on the competition between the 3 clans. Whichever side won in the end would get the chance to enter. Hence, over the long years, generation after generation, the Summer clan would usually hold the upper hand. The Tsong clan and Fan clan were equally matched. It's just that in the recent 5 competitions, the Fan clan did not win once. That was slightly embarrassing. Furthermore, the great paragons from the Fan clan had long wanted to enter again, even though only one could enter. But if the opportunity did not belong to the Fan clan, they would never be able to enter. The young fellows from the Summer clan are here. 6 figures flew over from afar before descending. One of them was a cosmos god. "Greetings, your majesties." They bowed. "Take your seats," Emperor Summer said. That cosmos god from the Summer clan naturally took his seat, and the remaining 5 primal chaos existences from the Summer clan were arranged by the female attendants. They were all low profile. After all, only the 5 of them were qualified to sit here temporarily. Very soon, the young fellow from the Fan clan is here too. At that moment, it attracted many gazes. The cosmos gods from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation present knew that the Fan clan did not win once in the previous 5 competitions. One could see Dongbua, Ying, and the other 4 flying over under the lead of Monarch Andromeda. After landing, they respectfully greeted, "Greetings, your majesties." And at the highest point, Ancestor Fan, who sat by the side of Emperor Summer, looked at that white-robed young man with interest. "Ying Shan, Snow Eagle? Let's see how capable this Ying Shan Snow Eagle is." This Ying Shan Snow Eagle had rejected becoming his disciple before. Even if he reincarnated into this world, Ancestor Fan was curious that he could reject becoming his disciple. Chapter 1090. Dongbua Shuang followed the others to their seats. He sat there drinking wine and eating the rare fruits in front of him. At the same time, he was silently observing his surroundings. So many cosmos gods. There were more than 100 guests who could attend this banquet. Other than Dongbua, Shui, Ying, and the other primal chaos brats who participated in the competition between the three clans, the weakest of the other guests were on the same level as Fiery Zhao King and Maple Nest King. Weaker ordinary cosmos gods were not qualified to attend this banquet. Like Monarch Andromeda who brought him here, he could only sit by the corner. Great paragons? Dongbua Shui Ying noticed those great paragons whose auras were either tyrannical, transcendent, or strange. Those who could be called great paragons were existences second only to unparalleled existences. In terms of strength, they were not much weaker than Southern Cloud King. Even though Southern Cloud King was wealthier, the various treasures, absolute art scriptures, and resources from Summerwind Ancient Nation were something Southern Cloud King could not compare with. But Southern Cloud King was able to create the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique, and that was what he relied on to challenge unparalleled existences. These great paragons give me a feeling close to that of Sacred Master. Dongbua Shui Ying thought. As for those three unparalleled existences, they seemed stronger than Sacred Master. No other choice. There were fewer powerful secret treasures over at the Primal Chaos Void. Shui Ying had never seen a secret treasure that could allow one to fight against those of a higher realm. Clearly, the refinement techniques here were much cruder than those in the Realm Heart Great Land. Even pure scriptures, the gap between both parties was huge. Even a Destruction Realm teleportation technique made Sacred Master envious. The Primal Chaos experts from the Tsang clan are here. Dongbua Shui Ying looked over. 5 experts from the Tsang clan and a Cosmos god came together. Even though the 5 of them were respectfully bowing, that unbridled and unfettered feeling was the most obvious. This was the natural way that Tsang clan nurtured its disciples. Even though some of them were crippled, those who rose would be more dazzling. The Tsang clan similarly did not accept outsiders, yet their overall strength was comparable to the Fan clan. Clearly, this method of nurturing had its merits. Summer clan, Tsang clan, and Fan clan. Dongbua Shui Ying observed. The disciples from the Summer clan are all polite. The Tsang family was more self-centered. The Fan clan is colder and has a heavier baleful aura. From the bottom of his heart, he liked the disciples of the Summer clan the most. They were the kind of people who were polite and restrained. According to the intelligence, the disciples of the Xia clan hated evil the most. Dongbua Shui Ying had already drunk more than half of the flask of wine in front of him, and he had also eaten quite a lot of fruits. At this time, below Emperor Xia, a white-robed man stood up and said in a clear voice, "I am Paragon Shun, the host of this competition between the 3 races. The competition between the 3 clans will be held for the Primal Chaos disciples from my Summer clan, Fan clan, and Tsang clan to compete in 3 different rounds before deciding the final victor." Dongbua Shui Ying listened attentively. Although they were the descendants of the 3 great clans, they were not strictly speaking the 3 great clans. For example, the Summer clan and the Tsang clan. Although they did not accept foreign experts, they did accept experts from their own countries. Many experts sought refuge with them and integrated into them, even being bestowed with surnames. As for the Fan clan, they accepted experts from outside the nation. If Dongbua Shui Ying were to take Ancestor Fan as his teacher in the past, he would immediately become a core member of the Fan clan. If he were willing to accept the surname bestowed upon him, changing his name to Fan Snow Eagle, the benefits he could obtain from the Fan clan would be greatly increased. In the past, for the sake of the Avatar technique and for the sake of returning to his hometown earlier, Dongbua Shui Ying chose to become a disciple of his teacher, Southern Cloud King. If it were in the Fan clan, even if one's talent was great, precious secret treasures like the 5 phase beads would not be bestowed to him. Hence, Dongbua Shui Ying had to contribute sufficiently to exchange for it. After all, there were many experts in the Fan clan, and the rules were naturally stricter. Every round of competition will be bestowed with a golden cauldron. The white-robed great paragon Chun Feng chuckled. After the 3 rounds, the clan with the most golden cauldrons will be the victor. At that moment, Dongbua Shui, Ying, and the other 15 primal chaos experts held their breaths. The first round of competition will be a competition of the soul and willpower. The white-robed great paragon Chun Feng said, "The further you walk on the path of cultivation, the more important your soul and willpower will be. The 15 of you will suffer from attacks on the soul and willpower at the same time. The longer you resist, the better it will be. The one who lasts the longest will be ranked first and will receive 3 golden cauldrons. The second will receive 2 golden cauldrons, and the third will receive 1 golden cauldron. As for the others, none of them." Dongbua Shui calmed down his heart. A competition of soul and willpower? He was a great expert in the mirage and illusory realm. Why would he be afraid of this? Of the 15 primal chaos experts, only the top 3 would be bestowed with golden cauldrons. This was just the first round. They had to compete in 3 rounds. It was said that they would compete in different rounds. This first round will be the easiest. All right, everyone stand up and stand at the center of the palace hall. Great Paragon Chun Feng ordered. Yes. At the same time, the Summer Clan, Song Clan, and Fan Clan, a total of 15 10th-level experts from 3 teams, stood up. They were carefully selected, of which 13 were natives of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Actually, the Summer Wind Ancient Nation was too big, and the competition within it was much more intense than those outside the nation. Upper honored guest Fei Shua, in a while, we'll have to see how strong you are. Fan San Yuan transmitted with a smile. I've heard that unfazed mystical technique specializes in the soul technique too. Dongbua Shui transmitted back. Fan San Yuan, Dongbua Shuang, Fan Yiqian, Fan Emoju, and King Sauron. The 5 of them stood in the great palace hall. At the center were 5 experts from the Summer Clan, and on the other side were 5 experts from the Song Clan. Ha ha! In the great palace hall, laughter could be heard first. After that, the sound of a pipa could be heard. Finally, there was a faint illusory realm enveloping the place. One could even see with the naked eye that the illusory realm contained many distorted scenes. Clearly, the experts from the 3 great clans who specialized in the illusory realm had acted. Shwa shwa shwa. Almost a breath later, 6 of the 15 primal chaos experts in the great palace softened and fell to the ground. Fan Yiqian was the only one from the Fan clan to fall. The standard this time is similar to the past. 6 have fallen at the start. The Fan clan is not bad. Only 1 has fallen? Only 1 from the Fan clan has fallen. It seems the Fan clan did not come with good intentions this time. Fan Yiqian, the guests were discussing, and the higher-ups from the Fan clan could not help but shake their heads inwardly when they saw Fan Yiqian, who was laughing foolishly on the ground. Of the 3 core disciples chosen by their Fan clan this time, the other 2 were still fine. But this Fan Yiqian had similarly strong and weak points. His soul and willpower were on the weaker side, and he was more ruthless and violent. Nevertheless, he had formed a resonance with that absolute art scripture written by Yuan, giving him a terrifying combat strength. I knew he would fall in the first round. Skyrending Great Paragon softly shook his head. He raised his wine cup, but this time with San Yuan, who has grasped the unfazed mystical technique, and Ying Shan Snow Eagle. We should have some confidence in winning the first round. As time passed, the primal chaos experts in the great palace fell one after another. The face of a young lady fan, Mo Zhu, revealed a look of pain. There was even a strand of hatred and heartache. Following that, she softened and fell to the ground. Clearly, she had fallen. King Sauron had a savage expression. His body was trembling. No, he was still mumbling. Clearly, he was doing his best to resist. But gradually, as the 3 great cosmos gods unleashed more powerful techniques, King Sauron fell too. At this moment, there were only 5 left on the battlefield. Dongbua Shui and Fan Sin Yuan were still standing there. Their expressions were calm and indifferent. Chapter 1091. There are 5 more. It seems they have some unique attainments in the soul and willpower. The higher-ups from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation were chatting with one another. Of the 2 young fellows from the Fan clan, one is Fan San Yuan, who grasped the unfazed mystical technique, and the other is Strange. He is actually Ying Snow Eagle, who grasped the 5 phases sealing technique. When did a void lineage expert become so resistant against soul techniques? The Fan clan has put in a lot of effort this time. The 2 absolute geniuses of this generation from the Summer clan, Xiao Wu Hua and Xia Fa Yang, are still here. Even General Xian from the Tsang clan is here. They were discussing, over time, of the 2 absolute geniuses from the Summer clan, that elegant and handsome Xiao Wu Hua gradually changed his expression. The aura from his body became sharp. Wu Hua can't hold on any longer. He can't hold on any longer. He specializes in the Tao of Sword. Even though he has experience tempering his heart in the mortal world, he is ultimately weaker than the other 4 in terms of resisting against soul techniques. The great paragons were discussing. Xiao Wu Hua was ranked in the top 3 absolute geniuses in the history of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. His cultivation speed was beyond that of Dongbua Shuang. Only 1 billion years or so had passed since then. When Dongbua Shuang shocked the world in the Ardent Fire City, Xiao Wu Hua had not been born yet. He had an extraordinary talent in the Tao of Sword, and was even personally guided by Emperor Summer. Dong! Xiao Wu Hua finally swayed and fell down within the palace hall. As for the remaining 4 experts, they were still holding on. Dongbua Shuang, the other absolute genius from the Summer clan, Xia Fa Yang, and General Xian from the Tsang clan did not change their expressions, though Fan San Yuan's expression began distorting. What? It isn't strange for Xia Fa Yang to easily resist against it. General Xian is so formidable too. He is much stronger than the previous time, and that Ying Snow Eagle seems to be having an easy time. Instead, Fan San Yuan, who cultivates the unfazed mystical technique, seems to be unable to hold on any longer. Strange. The Cosmos gods were discussing. Even the higher-ups of the Fan clan had a slight change in expression. From their point of view, Fan San Yuan would definitely get into the top 3 in the first round. How could he not enter the top 3? Fortunately, we have Ying Snow Eagle. Otherwise, we would have lost everything in the first round. Skyrending Great Paragon was secretly shocked. It's unavoidable that the Xia clan has produced 2 peerless demonic geniuses. But when did General Xian become so powerful in the aspect of the soul? Fan San Yuan finally collapsed to the ground. Only 3 remained standing. They came from the 3 great clans, Ying Snow Eagle, General Xian, and Xia Fa Yang. As time passed, the 3 great cosmos gods who unleashed their attacks looked at each other. Let's focus on dealing with these 3 little fellows. If we don't go all out, I'm afraid that we won't be able to take down the 3 of them. This time, the little fellows are much stronger than the previous few times in terms of soul will. The bald man said as he cast a misty illusion. All right, that female cosmos god who played the pipa chuckled. These 3 brats are quite formidable. They should have reached the pinnacle of primal chaos realm in the soul aspect. The rough male might have stopped laughing, but there were still ripples emanating from him. The 3 of them concentrated on dealing with Dongbua Shuang and the other 2. As for the 12 primal chaos experts who had previously collapsed on the ground, they had all awakened. All of them woke up and opened their eyes. Looking at the surrounding group of fallen cultivators, Shuang, Xia Fa Yang, and General Xian were still standing there suffering from all sorts of attacks. We lost. The top 3 are the 3 of them. I, Serene, am unparalleled in the Icy Plains tribe. Primal Chaos experts are no longer in my eyes. I have even successfully walked through the 10-layered corridors of life and death, yet I am not even in the top 3. King Sauron's eyes were filled with a trace of bewilderment. His prideful heart in the past had also suffered a blow. There was always someone better out there. There were people who were more monstrous than him. Fan San Yuan's expression also changed slightly. The formless mystical art, was created by Ancestor Fan. Among them, he was good at targeting the mind, but he didn't even make into the top 3. I lost. Xiao Wu Hua was startled too. I was a cosmos god when I was in my hometown. I was fortunate enough to reincarnate into the realm Heart Great Land with an unfathomable foundation. Furthermore, I was personally guided by Emperor Summer, but it can't even withstand it with pure willpower? He was very confident in his willpower. In his hometown, his willpower could be said to be indestructible. In this life, he had experienced the Xia clan's heart-tempering in the mortal world, but he still couldn't endure it. The other Primal Chaos disciples had all retreated, leaving behind only Dongbua Shui Ying, General Xian, and Xia Fa Yang. What do the two of you think the rankings will be? The Xia Emperor smiled as he glanced at the two next to him. Song Di looked down at the 3 little fellows and said, "This little fellow Song Xian really surprised me. His cultivation has always been slow, and it's already not bad that he had the qualifications to represent my Song clan in the competition between the 3 clans. But his spirit and willpower are also ordinary. This time he's really impressive." That Shan Snow Eagle cultivates at a frightening speed. Younger brother Fan, you're taking the initiative to accept him as a disciple? Was he also suspected to be a reincarnator? As for Xia Fa Yang, he is very talented. In my opinion, his future is likely to be more extraordinary than the reincarnated Xiao Wu Hua. Amen. The origin world that Xiao Wu Hua came from is too weak. He cultivated for a long time in his previous life, and it is hard for him to change his understanding of cultivation in this life. Emperor Summer nodded. Even though his cultivation is fast, it will be hard for him to improve after becoming a cosmos god. There were benefits and disadvantages to reincarnating in the previous life. The advantage was that one could comprehend 2 origin worlds, which would be helpful to his cultivation. Furthermore, with the foundation of his previous life, he would be able to cultivate very quickly in the early stages. The disadvantage was that what he comprehended in his previous life would always influence him. A blank piece of paper was easier to draw, and as a reincarnator, the moment he reincarnated, this piece of paper would already be a drawing. Many reincarnators have reached a bottleneck in their cultivation. That was why they chose to reincarnate. Ancestor Fan said, like the 5 ancestors from the Myriad Realms ancient nation, they had long reached the pinnacle. They reincarnated just because they wanted to experience more. Furthermore, they were lucky enough to obtain a realm heart order. Dongbua Shui Ying was an absolute talent in his previous life. Even though he had been chasing after the destruction devils for 1 trillion years, he still had frightening attainments. It's just that Sacred Master acted, forcing Dongbua Shui Ying to reincarnate. Amen? This is truly unbearable. Dongbua Shui Ying felt uncomfortable. 3 soul techniques were used to attack. He had the easiest time dealing with that illusory realm technique because he was a great expert in the mirage and illusory realm aspect. But the pipa music made him feel sleepy. The sound of the pipa directly permeated into his soul, making his soul feel very tired and wanted to sleep. And that laughter made his soul chaotic and irritable, making it hard for him to calm his heart. Calming his heart was the most fundamental. If his heart was not calm, it would be easier for him to fall for the technique. 3 great techniques came attacking at the same time. They complemented each other, and it was truly frightening. Wake up, wake up! Dongbua Shui Ying tried his best to resist, but he felt more and more unbearable. Dongbua Shui Ying felt muddle-headed. He could not suppress the irritation and fatigue in his heart. He was very tired. The illusory realm was also dragging him down. That was a wonderful illusory realm. Under such fatigue, he really wanted to enter the illusory realm to rest and enjoy himself. Dong! A faint sound came from his side. One has fallen. This thought flashed across the heart of Dongbua Shui Ying. Following that, the power of the 3 great techniques increased once again. It seemed to have broken through a certain limit that Dongbua Shui Ying could endure. He felt his heart world turning dark, and he lost consciousness. Chapter 1092. When Dongbua Shui Ying regained consciousness, he saw Xia Fa Yang from the Summer clan and General Xian from the Tsang clan, who had similarly regained consciousness. Who is first? Who is second? They immediately stood up. They were slightly puzzled, because previously they were doing their best to resist against the soul technique and did not have the mood to check out the external world. Hence, they did not know the rankings. Brother Fei Xue, you are second. Fan San Yuan transmitted, what a pity. You are so close to being first. The three of you have persisted for a very long time. In the end, you all fell one after another. The gap between you all is very small. Dongbua Shui Ying was slightly stunned. Second, being an absolute genius in the mirage and illusory realm. And also because he cultivated the avatar technique, he broke out of the cage and absorbed the mysterious energy from the external world to nourish his soul. Dongbua Shui Ying thought he should be first. Who would have thought that he was only second? Furthermore, the gap between the top three was very small, indicating that they were close in this aspect. I barely got first. Xia Fa Yang also received the transmission from the clan. He could not help but look at the other two beside him. He was inwardly startled. I have long reached the pinnacle of primal chaos realm in the Tao of Heart. Furthermore, I specialize in the Tao of Arrays. For the sake of researching arrays, I did not care about the price and absorbed a total of 20 billion cosmos crystals worth of essence of chaotic origin. I thought that nobody could surpass me in resisting against soul techniques at the primal chaos realm. Who would have thought that the two of them are similar to me? Xia Fa Yang was the one that the Summer clan valued the most. Tao of Heart, Tao of Arrays, it was hard to become a cosmos god in both Tao paths. Arrays were even more taxing on one's heart and soul. The stronger one's soul was, the faster one could research arrays. That was why Xia Fa Yang did not care about the price, and even borrowed cosmos crystals from the clan. The essence of chaotic origin he absorbed was ridiculously valuable. I am third. General Xian frowned. I have been bestowed with a cultivation technique by Teacher Yuan, allowing me to grasp the basics before becoming a cosmos god. Only then am I qualified to become a disciple of Teacher Yuan. My heart is grand, yet I'm still lacking by a strand compared to these two. That's right. In the eyes of Teacher Yuan, I could barely nurture them. But he did not know. Shui Ying and Xia Fa Yang. One had reached the pinnacle of primal chaos realm in the mirage and illusory realm, and the other had reached the pinnacle of primal chaos realm in the Tao of Heart. One was a soul absorbing the mysterious aura from outside the origin world, and the other was absorbing a vast amount of chaotic origin essence. It was already incredible that he, General Xian, was able to reach such a level without deliberately cultivating any soul-type techniques. The three peerless geniuses each had their own thoughts. And the host of the competition between the three clans, Great Paragon Imperial Wind, laughed. The first round of competition has ended. The first is Xia Fa Yang from the Summer clan. The second is Ying Shan Snow Eagle from the Fan clan. And the third is Tsang Xian from the Tsang clan. The Summer clan has temporarily obtained 3 golden cauldrons, the Fan clan 2 golden cauldrons, and the Tsang clan 1 golden cauldron. Haha. Next will be the second round of competition. The second round of the competition is to compare the overall strength of the disciples nurtured by the 3 clans. The 15 primal chaos experts from the 3 great clans will be split into 5 groups. Each group would have 1 member each from the Summer clan, Fan clan, and Tsang clan. The final victor of each group would obtain a golden cauldron. There are 5 groups in total, which is 5 cauldrons. Please wait for a moment. The second round will begin soon. Great Sovereign Imperial Wind finished speaking. He immediately started discussing with the 2 great paragons from the Fan clan and Tsang clan. They would each come up with a name list that was arranged in order. None of them knew the name list of others. 3 name lists were set. The first name on each name list would be in the first group, and the second would be in the second group, and so on. Dongbua Shui Ying was seated. Upper honored guest Fei Xue, you have done well in the first round. Monarch Andromeda said, currently, we are slightly behind the Summer clan. there is still the second and third round. This time, we have a high chance of winning. Fellow cultivators, you must do your best. Yes, everyone present acknowledged. Very soon, the name list was made public. The second round of the competition will begin now. Great Paragon Imperial Wind announced. His voice reverberated in the vast palace hall. The first group consists of Xiao Wuhua, Serene, and Songqing Lei. The rules are that those who are thrown out of the platform will lose. Those who are saved by Emperor Summer will also lose. Dongwu Shuiying was seated there. The order of appearance for the Fan clan was King Serene, Fan San Yuan, Yingshan Snow Eagle, Fan Yiqian, and Fan Emoju. Xiao Wuhua, this is slightly troublesome. For this battle, Xiao Wuhua has a higher chance of winning. Various guests were discussing. Xiao Wuhua was famous outside, and King Serene was ultimately from a distant icy plains tribe. He was from another nation, and Songqing Lei was not considered dazzling within the Song clan. At the center of the palace hall, currently, a huge silvery white circular battle platform appeared. Xiao Wuhua, Serene, and Songqing Lei were paying attention to their opponents. There would only be one victor among the three of them. Let's begin. The moment Great Paragon Imperial Wind finished speaking, the three primal chaos existences began fighting. They did not hold back and were not worried about any problems since there were three unparalleled existences on the battlefield. Under the watchful eyes of Emperor Summer, Ancestor Fan, and Emperor Tsang, there had never been anyone who died in the competition between the three clans. After all, the gap between their levels was too big. Emperor Summer and the others could easily save their opponents at the final moment. Songqing Lei transformed into a giant. His skin was dark green in color, and lightning was swimming on its surface. He held two great hammers in his hands and was abnormally tyrannical. And the originally tyrannical King Sauron was currently releasing many ripples. He began fighting in close combat. King Sauron was someone who cultivated in two Dao paths and was incredibly powerful. Even Fan Yiqian in the past had to use a forbidden technique. In addition to the small space, King Sauron could not evade, resulting in his defeat. And at this moment, the palace battle platform did not seem too exaggerated, but in reality, it was more than 1,000 times bigger than a small courtyard. It was sufficient for him to move about. This brat from the Icy Plains tribe is quite powerful. Dao of Ripple, Dao of Slaughter, cultivating in two Dao paths, complementing each other. Xiao Wuhua is in trouble. It is hard to say the outcome. Xiao Wuhua merely had a sword. He placed everything on his sword and was loyal to his sword. After a moment of frenzied fighting, Songqing Lei was clearly weaker among the three. But because his body was strong enough, and King Sauron wanted to make use of him to influence Xiao Wuhua, that was why he was blasted out of the battle platform by Xiao Wuhua. The battle between King Sauron and Xiao Wuhua was much more intense. Hua Hua Hua. The dazzling sword light was like a celestial river that poured into the body of King Sauron. Xiao Wuhua's body was also filled with wounds. Finally, Emperor Summer acted and teleported King Sauron out of the battle platform. After all, King Sauron had consumed too much of his body. He was only left with 10% of his life force, and Xiao Wuhua still had more than 50%. I lost again. King Sauron returned to his seat. He turned silent. That time when he was chosen by the Fan clan, he felt slightly proud in his heart. After all, he was chosen by the Fan clan out of the many primal chaos realm experts. King Sauron had a feeling that the Fan clan had to beg him for help. He felt that he was stronger than the core disciples of the Fan clan. But in the competition between the three clans, he was still far from the top three in the first round. He lost again in the second round. The Summer clan has won the first group. Don't be anxious. The second group is about to begin. San Yuan, it's up to you. Monarch Andromeda looked at Fan San Yuan. Fan San Yuan nodded and stood up. This was a group fight. The second group consisted of Fan San Yuan, Xia Cheng Yuan, and Song Yiyong. What? The outcome of the battle shocked many guests. Dongwu Shuiying was incredibly shocked too, even though he knew that a strong soul and willpower did not represent a strong combat power. That Song Yong from the Song clan was the most dazzling before General Xian revealed his brilliance. He was relatively powerful in this battle too, but he was still at a disadvantage when facing Fan San Yuan, who cultivated the unfazed mystical technique. But they had never thought that the least famous Xia Cheng Yuan from the Summer Clan, a cheerful young man, would reveal such a terrifying combat power. He began chanting, Wang Hua, Fu. Many characters were chanted out from his mouth. An unseen ripple continued to shackle Song Yong and Fan San Yuan. Finally, both Song Yong and Fan San Yuan were bound by layers of shackles. They could not resist and were sent out of the battle platform. The great Dao Song, created by Emperor Summer, he actually succeeded in cultivating it. He succeeded in cultivating the great Dao Song. That was too terrifying. Xia Wu Hua and Xia Fa Yang were hailed as the absolute geniuses of this generation of the Summer Clan. And Xia Cheng Yuan was a low-profile young fellow. Even though he was a core disciple, he was still weaker than the other two. But the great Dao Song was a horrifying cultivation technique that was hard to cultivate, just like the 5 phases sealing technique. But the moment one succeeded in cultivating it, it would be frightening. Clearly, Xia Cheng Yuan was very low profile. He only revealed his true strength during the competition between the 3 clans. 5 experts from the Summer Clan. In terms of combat power, this Xia Cheng Yuan is probably close to Xia Fa Yang. One by one, they praised. A single cultivation technique could sweep across those on the same level. Once the 5 phases sealing technique was used, it would suppress the core disciples of the Fan clan. Only Fan Yiqian had the confidence to fight against it. It was the same for the great Dao Song. Once this move was used, it would be fine if one could defend against it. The legendary great Dao Song? Dongbua Shui Ying was inwardly shocked when he saw this. If I had merely cultivated the 5 phases sealing technique, I might not have the confidence to win the competition between the 3 clans. If it was just the 5 phases sealing technique, the Fan clan might just swap out their participants if they demanded too much. But with the 10th level Mirage and Illusory Realm technique, coupled with the 5 phases sealing technique, Dongbua Shui Ying could win against anyone present here. After all, even this Xia Cheng Yuan was not ranked in the top 3 in the first round. He might not have the confidence to resist against the Devil Heart Bell executed by Dongbua Shui Ying. Even if he could resist against it, he would only barely be able to maintain his consciousness. When facing against Dongbua Shui Ying, he would undoubtedly lose. This is going to be troublesome. The Summer Clan has won again. Xia Wu Hua, Xia Cheng Yuan. There are a total of 5 ancestors in the second round. The Summer Clan has won the first 2 groups consecutively. The Summer Clan has the advantage in the first round too, unless our Fan clan is going to lose this competition between the 3 clans. The higher-ups of the Fan clan were slightly panicking. It was true that the Summer clan's advantage was getting bigger and bigger. It was fine if there were 2 absolute geniuses, but there was even a low-profile Xia Cheng Yuan. The third group, Great Paragon Imperial Wind chuckled. He was in a good mood. Xia Fa Yang, Yingshan Snow Eagle, Song Ying. Xia Fa Yang. He should be the strongest brat in this generation of the Summer Clan. He is ranked first in the previous round of soul and willpower. It is said that he has reached the pinnacle of primal chaos realm in the Tao of Heart, and he specializes in the Tao of Arrays. The Summer Clan will likely win another round. Their advantage is getting bigger and bigger. Furthermore, the Summer Clan has quite a few outstanding experts, so they will definitely have a huge advantage in the third round. The other 2 clans have no hope of turning the tables in this competition between the 3 clans. Right, the advantage is too big. At this moment, Dongbua Shui Ying, Xia Fa Yang, and Song Ying stood up. Chapter 1093. Fa Yang, win another match. Brother Fa Yang, it's up to you. Everyone from the Summer Clan was filled with confidence. Even though Xia Cheng Yuan, who cultivated the great Dao Song, was stunning, he could only be said to be close to Xia Fa Yang. Xia Fa Yang specialized in two Daos. The Dao of Array was originally formidable, and the most terrifying was the Dao of Heart that targeted the soul. Those whose soul and willpower could not resist against it would be easily destroyed. Those who resisted against it would suffer a huge loss in combat strength. Rest assured, Xia Fa Yang stood up with a smile before walking out of his seat towards the circular battle platform at the center of the palace hall. Song Ying from Song clan was a cold old man. He was very low profile. My luck is too bad. I actually met the two with the strongest soul and willpower. Weaker soul and willpower did not mean they were weak. But for their soul and willpower to be ranked first and second, their strength must be terrifying. Either they specialized in soul techniques, or they had cultivated some horrifying cultivation techniques that made their soul aspect heaven-defying. Xia Fa Yang is the strongest from the Summer clan. That Shan Snow Eagle should be the strongest from the Fan clan. AI, why is it so coincidental that I met the two of them? Song Ying felt helpless. Dongbua Shui calmly stood up. Upper honored guest Fei Shua, your group must win. We cannot lose again. Monarch Andromeda transmitted. Brother Fei Shua, I've lost. It's up to you now. Fan Sen Yuan transmitted too. They were all looking at Dongbua Shuang. Under the attention and transmission, Dongbua Shui calmly walked onto the circular battle platform. On the battle platform, Song Ying, Xia Fa Yang, and Dongbua Shuang stood there. Everything was prepared. The surrounding guests were also watching. They quietened down and were discussing through voice transmissions. The host of the competition between the three clans, Great Paragon Imperial Wind, announced, "Let's begin." The moment he finished speaking, Wang, a rotating, cyan lotus-like Dharma array almost occupied the entire fighting platform, descending upon it. The array descended instantaneously. It cannot be dodged. It was so fast that it could be executed with a thought. This kind of super fast attack was similar to the illusory world, which could also descend with a thought. For example, some curses, all of these could be executed with just a thought, and they were executed extremely quickly. Although Dongbua Shui Ying's 5 phases sealing technique couldn't be dodged, he still had to use the 5 phases first before fusing them together. Break for me! Song Ying roared from within the ancient green lotus, and behind his body, the faint image of a massive black serpent appeared. But at that moment, his soul will seem to be instantly enveloped by a vast world. It was a vast spiritual world. Ding, 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 ding. As his soul was being enveloped, Song Ying could faintly hear the ringing of bells, causing him to be unable to retaliate at all. Poor Song Ying, being attacked by both Dongbua Shui Ying and Xia Fa Yang's soul-type technique. Any one of them would be enough to make him sink into oblivion, not to mention both of them attacking at the same time. This soul technique could be unleashed in an instant. There are only 2 outcomes when facing this technique. Either he could resist it, or he couldn't. The ancient green lotus revolved, easily repelling Song Ying out of the circular battle platform. Xia Fa Yang only glanced at Song Ying from the corner of his eyes. Clearly, he didn't care about him. He looked at the white-robed young man in front of him. At this moment, there was a 3-meter-long green lotus secret treasure beneath Xia Fa Yang's feet. There was also a red bead on his forehead. 2 great secret treasures. One was an array secret treasure, and the other was a heart secret treasure. Xia Fa Yang was using his full strength. Ding, 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 ding. A golden bell appeared by the waist of Dongbua Shuang. The bell let out a sweet-sounding sound. The bewildering sound and illusory world were also working hard to drag the enemy's consciousness. It's just that the 2 of them were great experts who had reached the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm in the soul aspect. Even when facing an 11th level technique, they could still barely maintain their consciousness. As for a 10th level soul technique, it would only affect 20 to 30% of their heart force, allowing them to unleash a powerful combat power. Dao of Array. Dongbua Shuiying stood there. The 5-phase bead on his right wrist was emitting a faint light. He pressed his right hand down slightly, causing an unseen space to suppress the surroundings. That green lotus array could no longer move forward. Your attainments in the Tao of Array are still lacking. Dongbua Shuiying softly shook his head. He extended his hand. 5 faint light revolved around his finger. His right hand expanded, turning into a huge hand that was a few hundred meters in size. It directly grabbed out. Everywhere it passed through, the lotus array was forcefully torn apart. The 5 phases sealing technique was an independent space. Even the destructive realm teleportation technique could not escape from it. This green lotus array had a portion of the array within the 5 phases sealing space, and a portion outside the 5 phases sealing space. Since there was no way for the array to connect between the two, the array naturally broke apart. If the array was strong enough, the 5 phases sealing space would naturally not be broken apart. Clearly, even though Xia Fa Yang was quite formidable in the Tao of Array, it was far from the power of the 5 phases sealing technique. Not good. Xia Fa Yang's expression changed. Who? Even though he was anxious and in despair, Xia Fa Yang was helpless. He tried his best to activate the array, but the huge hand came grabbing over and suppressed everything, grabbing onto him. Get out! With a wave of his hand, the huge hand enveloped Xia Fa Yang before easily throwing him out of the battle platform. When the huge hand disappeared, Xia Fa Yang was already outside the battle platform. I lost. Xia Fa Yang stood there in a daze. He was pulled out by a huge hand. Being able to unleash his soul technique to the 10th level, he was already an absolute talent. His attainments in the Tao of Array were relatively deep, and he was unquestionably the strongest primal chaos expert in the Summer Clan. Furthermore, he was extremely outstanding in the history of the Summer Clan, and the higher-ups of the Summer Clan regarded him highly, but he still lost. What? This Shan, Snow, Eagle actually won? That is a mirage and illusory realm secret treasure. Many guests present were dumbstruck. To the experts from the Summerwind ancient nation, this brat who came from a southern cloud nation was someone who disdained outsiders. The most outstanding talent of this generation from the Summer Clan actually lost in the hands of this brat from the southern cloud nation. I still thought that his heart force would be greatly affected by the heart attack, preventing him from executing the 5 phases sealing technique. Who would have thought that he's also a great expert in the mirage and illusory realm, and his soul foundation is so strong too. He could still execute the 5 phases sealing technique despite suffering from so many disturbances. The 5 phases sealing technique was a fusion of 5 10th level techniques at the same time. It naturally placed a huge burden on his heart force. But Dongbua Shuiying's soul was sufficiently strong. He could still bear the burden. Furthermore, after creating the 9 rotation undying technique, his accumulations in the Tao of Void had become so deep that he felt he could break through to the Cosmos God realm after comprehending it slightly. He did not dare to cultivate it temporarily. With such a deep foundation, he could execute the 5 phases sealing technique with ease, and the amount of heart force he required was much lesser. I didn't lose unjustly. Xia Fa Yang regained his calmness. He did not place Song Ying in his eyes at all in this group competition. From the start, he paid the most attention to this Shan Snow Eagle, because he knew the famous technique of Shan Snow Eagle, the 5 phases sealing technique. Hence, he thought of borrowing on the Tao of Heart to influence the other party's heart force. That way, the other party could not execute the 5 phases sealing technique. He is truly an absolute expert in the Tao of Soul. Xia Fa Yang shook his head inwardly. I can't be compared to him. He directly walked back to his seat. Dongbua Shuiying also walked down the battle platform. Upper honored guest Fei Shua, well done. Monarch Andromeda was in great joy. Such an amazing southern cloud nation brat. The guests present memorized him. A 10th level soul technique was practically unparalleled in the primal chaos realm. And if he executed the 5 phases sealing technique, he would truly be unparalleled. Other than Dongbua Shuiying, no one present was so savage. Amazing. King Sauron sighed as he watched. Brother Fei Xue is truly amazing. You have beaten Xia Fa Yang until he no longer has any temper. Fan San Yuan transmitted with a smile. I admit my loss wholeheartedly. The thin Fan Yiqian added. It's nothing much. Dongbua Shuiying chuckled. He returned his seat and sat down cross-legged. Indeed, it was nothing much. Currently, his strongest technique was the 9-rotation undying technique. If he executed it, Xia Fa Yang could not injure him at all, even if he stood there. He could not even touch him. Without breaking the cage of the origin world, he could not injure him at all. He could easily deal with his enemies. If one were to talk about these two techniques, he was unparalleled at the primal chaos realm in this era. But after comprehending the 9-rotation undying technique, dealing with Xia Fa Yang and the others was akin to bullying the juniors. The gap in strength was clear. This competition between the 3 clans was also a competition between groups. If he could fight against a group of them alone, Dongbua Shuiying could easily sweep through all of them. But he had to do it slowly according to the rules of the competition between the 3 clans. Anyway, as long as he completed the mission, he would get 10,000 contribution points. Chapter 1094. The 4th group, Xia Jingji, Fan Yiqian, Song Xian. Great Paragon Imperial Wind chuckled and announced. Watch me. Fan Yiqian's fighting spirit was overflowing. Lightning was flowing on the surface of his body. Xia Jingji was a beautiful girl. Her aura was amiable, and anyone who saw her would have a good impression of her. Song Xian was General Xian. Dongbua Shuiying sat there watching calmly. He focused his attention on General Xian. That time when we were resisting against the soul and willpower technique, he, Xia Fa Yang, and I all fell one after another. I wonder if he is proficient in soul offensive techniques. His soul and willpower were extremely strong. He might specialize in the soul aspect, like a soul protection technique, but that did not mean he was good at soul offensive techniques. There were many Dao paths with a strong soul and willpower, but experts who specialized in soul offensive techniques would definitely be strong in the soul and willpower aspect. The battle erupted. The guests who were watching the battle were startled. The combat standard of this group was comparable to that of Snow Eagle and Xia Fa Yang. It was much more interesting and formidable than the 1st and 2nd group. Die for me, all of you die. Fan Yiqian was completely mad. His eyes were filled with lightning. He had clearly executed a forbidden technique. A bronze pole swept out in all directions. His entire body was covered in lightning. Every single move was filled with lightning. His speed was exceptional, and in an instant he had executed hundreds and thousands of moves. Not only was he fast, his power was terrifying too. Good fellow. Dongbua Shuiying was inwardly startled when he saw that. What a terrifying strength. It is hard to say if the pure 5 phases sealing technique could withstand such a violent attack. Xia Jingji also executed her sword technique. Her Dao of sword was extremely keen and soft, and she could still withstand Fan Yiqian's violent attacks. But what shocked Dongbua Shuiying the most was that General Xian. Pung pung pung. General Xian's body emitted a violet light. The violet light engulfed the entire battle platform. It also enveloped Xia Jingji and Fan Yiqian. General Xian casually wielded a great hammer to deal against Fan Yiqian. Great hammer and bronze pole. The sledgehammers seemed to be very light and casual, but General Xian was not at a disadvantage at all. He took on those long staffs head-on, and as time passed, the purple light continued to bind him. Fan Yiqian seemed to be trapped in a swamp. Although he roared in anger, the strength he could unleash continued to decline. In the end, General Xian merely swung his hammer casually. Pung! Fan Yiqian, whose strength had been greatly reduced, was thrown out of the fighting ring. General Xian turned to look at Xia Jingji. Xia Jingji was weaker in body cultivation. Under the binding of the violet light, Any random 10th level expert could easily defeat her. General Xian merely took a step forward and casually hammered Xia Jingji away. His domain is at the peak of the 10th level, and it continues to grow stronger as time passes. At the very least, at the end of the battle, the limits of his domain had yet to be seen. What kind of technique is this? Dongbu Shui Ying exclaimed at his heart. He could not tell what kind of technique this was, but it was obviously very powerful. In the fourth group, General Xian won. The Song clan had finally won a group. The fifth group, Dongbu Shui Ying looked at the only green-robed young girl remaining on the circular battle platform with shock. Fan Mo, she won? Dongbu Shui Ying was startled. Fan Mo won this group, not only because her two opponents are slightly weaker, but more importantly, Fan Mo was very powerful too. Fan San Yuan, Fan Mo, Fan Yiqian, the three of them should be at the same level. The difference between them isn't huge. Fan Yiqian is more violent and barbaric, while Fan San Yuan is more balanced. As for Fan Mo, what a formidable swordao. It feels as though she is close to Xiao Wuhua. The entire palace hall was currently filled with discussions, because the second round had ended. Out of the 5 groups, the Summer Clan won 2, the Fan Clan won 2, and the Song Clan won 1. The Summer Clan and Fan Clan won 2 groups each, while the Song Clan won 1. Currently, the Summer Clan has accumulated 5 golden cauldrons, the Fan Clan has 4 golden cauldrons, and the Song Clan has 2 golden cauldrons. Great Paragon Imperial Wind announced. The 2 golden cauldrons of the Song Clan were obtained by General Xian. Dongbu Shui Ying from the Fan Clan contributed more than half of the total. The overall strength of the Summer Clan was too strong. Let's take a break for now. Once everyone has recovered their strength, we can begin the 3rd round, which is also the final round. Great Paragon Imperial Wind said. Previously, quite a few of them were heavily injured or had consumed too much of their heart force. All of them required time to recover. In the Great Palace Hall, Emperor Summer turned to Ancestor Fan with a grin. Brother Fan, according to the rules of the competition between the 3 clans, this 3rd round will be for these young fellows to rely on their own techniques. This generation of my Summer Clan not only produced 2 little monsters, Xia Fa Yang and Xiao Wu Hua. I did not even know that this child Cheng Yuan had grasped the great Dao Song. Even though that Shan Snow Eagle from your Fan Clan and Song Xian from the Song Clan are very formidable, they are just one person, and the 3 juniors from my Summer Clan are all extremely strong. By then, adding on the fact that my Summer Clan has the upper hand in the first 2 rounds, there is an 80% to 90% chance that my Summer Clan will win. With the humble attitude of Emperor Summer, even if he said that there was an 80% to 90% chance, in reality, it was already set in stone. Younger brother Fan, your Fan Clan has lost 5 times in a row. This time, you will lose for the 6th time too. Emperor Song laughed. 6 times. This time, the Summer Clan has produced 3 little monsters that are much stronger than the previous 5 times. Ancestor Fan frowned too. He was very confident of Shan's Snow Eagle. He felt that he could sweep the other party one-on-one. But ultimately, there was just one. Fan San Yuan and the others were considered outstanding. But compared to those monsters like Xia Fa Yang and Xia Cheng Yuan, they were slightly lacking. No matter what, a loss is a loss. We have lost 6 times in a row. Emperor Summer mocked. They did not care too much about winning or losing. It's just that unparalleled existences like them, there are not many things that could bring them joy. Emperor Summer and Emperor Song found it interesting to let their old friend break the record once again. Don't be anxious. It hasn't reached the final moment yet, Ancestor Fan nonchalantly said. He looked calm on the surface, yet in his heart, he vaguely understood that there was no hope for them to win this competition between the 3 clans. During the break, all sorts of precious wine were served in the palace hall. This wine would nourish the spirit and fleshy body. 2 hours later, everyone had recovered to their peak condition. There is only one final round left in the competition between the 3 clans. Great Paragon Imperial Wind chuckled. The first round is a competition of soul and willpower. The second round is a competition of the overall strength of the disciples nurtured by the three great clans. But for us cultivators, individual strength is our foundation. It is most common for an ultra-strong expert to sweep across a group. Hence, this final round will allow the primal chaos expert from the three great clans to do their best. Wah! Great Paragon Imperial Wind waved his hand. At the center of the hall, a series of 15 indistinct estate worlds appeared. Later, the 15 of you will each enter our estate world. When the time comes, His Imperial Majesty, the Xia Emperor, will personally use his techniques to send waves of enemies down. Defeat the first wave of enemies, and you will get a golden cauldron. Defeat the second wave of enemies, and you will get 2 golden cauldrons. If you defeat 9 waves of enemies, you will get 9 golden cauldrons. Great Paragon Imperial Wind chuckled. The number of golden cauldrons obtained by the disciples sent out by the 3 great clans will be accumulated. The number of golden cauldrons obtained by the 3 rounds will also be accumulated. According to the total number, the one with the most wins. I remember in the previous competition between the 3 clans, there were only 6 who could defeat the first wave of enemies, and only 2 who could defeat the second wave. Great Paragon Imperial Wind chuckled. The majority of disciples from the Summer Clan, Fan Clan, and Song Clan already knew about this. The final trial was extremely difficult. Those who were chosen to participate in the competition between the 3 clans were strong enough, but the majority could not even win the first wave. As for the second wave, most of the competition between the 3 clans, the most talented cultivator could only defeat the second wave of enemies. As for the defeating 9 waves of enemies mentioned by Great Paragon Imperial Wind, it had never happened before in history. Since the start of the competition between the 3 clans, the most powerful cultivator could only defeat 4 waves of enemies. Fight it out. All 5 of you must fight it out. Monarch Andromeda anxiously transmitted. The other 4 of you must at least defeat the first wave of enemies. As for Upper Honored Guest Feishu, I hope you could defeat 3 waves of enemies. Fan Ichien, Fan San Yuan, King Sauron, and the others turned solemn. The 3 of them had yet to obtain a golden cauldron for the Fan clan. They were all prideful people and were naturally suppressing their anger in their hearts. I have moved unhindered in the Icy Plains tribe. Could it be that I will lose all 3 rounds after coming to the Summerwind Ancient Nation? No. King Sauron was unwilling. Fan San Yuan and Fan Ichien were also filled with fighting spirit. Fan Mo Zhu remained silent, and Dongbua Shui Ying sat there calmly. All right, all of you can enter your Eden worlds. Great Paragon Imperial Wind announced. They all stood up. The 15 primal chaos cultivators stood up. They did not fight for it. The 15 primal chaos cultivators from the center of the Summer Clan, the Fan Clan, and the Song Clan directly entered their respective Eden worlds. Star. Chapter 1095. Dongbua Shui Ying entered a vast Eden world. This Eden world only had a single piece of land. Interesting. Looking out, he could see through the membrane of the Eden world to the outside world. He could see the other Eden worlds and the huge figures of the guests in the palace hall outside. Their bodies did not become bigger. It should be because they shrunk after I entered the Eden world. Dongbua Shui immediately understood this point. Hong Long Long, the Eden world suddenly surged with energy. Dongbua Shui no longer thought about it. He began watching carefully. The other 14 primal chaos existences were also waiting with vigilance. Wah, wah, wah. 3 silver-armored soldiers condensed one after another. They were emitting an aura comparable to cosmos gods, and should be at least at the God Yuan Palace 10th level strength. Kill! They were about to display their techniques when at this moment, ding, 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 dang, a sweet-sounding bell sound could be heard. That golden bell by the waist of Dongbua Shui was lightly ringing too. Before the 3 silver-armored soldiers could display their techniques, their bodies turned soft and fell to the ground. After losing their consciousness, their bodies crumbled and dissipated like gravel. They were ultimately not true living beings. They were formed with a thought from Emperor Summer. Even though they had formed their initial consciousness, it was very weak. Their combat techniques were directly imparted to them by Emperor Summer. In terms of resisting against soul attacks, it was Emperor Summer who added a layer of protection. This was just the first level of trial, and the soul protection was relatively weak. This first wave of trial isn't too difficult. Donghua Shuang thought it would be too exaggerated if they could resist against the 10th level illusory realm in the first wave. Donghua Shuang looked at the outside world with ease. He looked at the other Eden worlds and saw the techniques of these silver-armored soldiers. Many ripples were emitted from the surface of King Sauron's body. This ripple spread out in all directions, affecting the 3 silver-armored soldiers around him. At the same time, he was madly staring at a silver-armored soldier whose entire body was covered in flames. One of the silver-armored soldiers was like a black fog, dissipating and condensing at times. When it condensed, it would entangle and restrict King Sauron. There was also a silver-armored soldier. Every time he condensed a long shuttle in his hand and threw it out, the long shuttle would transform into lightning, ferocious and unstoppable. It gave King Sauron a headache. The one that posed the greatest threat was the silver-armored soldier that he was currently fighting against. This silver-armored soldier's entire body could transform into a 2-colored ring of flames. This ring of flames was the only one among the 3 silver-armored soldiers that could heavily injure his body. King Sauron's body was extremely tyrannical. Ordinary 10th level attacks wouldn't be able to do anything to him. As for the attacks of the other 2 soldiers, he could rely on his domain to weaken them. At most, he would only suffer some light injuries. King Sauron fought against that flaming silver-armored soldier with great difficulty, causing his body to dissipate. However, the other party's body instantly reformed, just that his energy was slightly depleted. A lightning spear flashed and pierced into King Sauron's body. Following that, the lightning spear dissipated. Black fog rose to restrict King Sauron's movements. Kill. King Sauron didn't care as he continued to attack the flaming silver-armored soldier. He was doing his best to exhaust the strength of the flaming silver-armored soldier. Chi. A 2-colored ring of flames appeared. 2 rings of flames appeared, trapping King Sauron from above and below. The 2 completely different flames caused King Sauron's body to feel extreme pain. This was even more damaging to him than 10 to 20 lightning spear attacks. I have to eliminate it as soon as possible. King Sauron didn't dare to allow this soldier that controlled the 2-colored flames to continue existing. 10 breaths of time passed. It seemed very short. However, it was already very long for King Sauron in his frenzied battle. He was only left with 30% of his life force. Finally, he successfully exhausted the strength of the flaming silver-armored soldier, causing it to dissipate completely. Only the 2 of you are left. King Sauron was filled with confidence. Indeed, when he was left with 20% of his life force, he had succeeded. Finally, he defeated the 3 opponents. Finally, I managed to endure through the first batch of enemies and won a golden cauldron. King Sauron secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He was invited here this time. If he didn't even win a golden cauldron, that would be a great humiliation. However, it really wasn't easy to win the first batch. King Sauron felt very tired. The 3 soldiers were all very powerful and specialized in different things. It's just that his body cultivation technique was the Dark Eye Scripture, and that flame was very effective against him. King Sauron looked around him. With a glance, he saw the outsider that was similarly invited by the Fan Clan. The white-robed young man, Snow Eagle, stood there. His aura was the same as before, and there were no traces of battle within that Eden world. An instant kill, King Sauron muttered inwardly. There is always someone better than you. I'm still far from that level. Who? No. The battle within the 15 Eden worlds had indeed reached its end. King Sauron had spent the longest time in this battle. 3 breaths of time after his battle ended, everything quieted down. 4 primal chaos experts have been teleported out. Emperor Summer would not watch them die in front of his eyes. There are actually 11 who survived through the first wave of enemies. It seems the overall strength of the participants in this competition between the 3 clans is quite strong. 11? I remember there were only 6 the previous time, right? Many guests clicked their tongues in surprise. Since 11 of them survived through the first wave of attacks, it proved that their strength had reached an extremely high level. Ha ha! Fan Clan. The Fan Clan has actually survived through the first wave. 4 from the Summer Clan, and 2 from the Song Clan. This time, the 5 that the Fan Clan sent over are quite strong. No choice. The Fan Clan can't afford to lose. Naturally, they have to think of other ways. The guests were discussing. The Fan Clan had indeed survived through the first wave because they had lost the previous 5 competitions between the 3 clans. This time, after selecting Fan San Yuan, Fan Ichien, and Fan Emoju, they felt that the other disciples of the Fan Clan were too weak and might not be able to survive against the first wave of enemies in the Eden world. The Fan Clan was not willing to lose again. Hence, they had to search for more outstanding cultivators from the outside world. Without a good teacher or cultivation technique, how hard was it to find someone comparable to Fan, Ichien, and the others? But they barely managed to find 2. One was King Sauron from the Icy Plains tribe, and the other was Ying, Shan Snow Eagle from the Southern Cloud Nation. And through the negotiation between Southern Cloud King and Skyrending Great Paragon, the Fan Clan understood that this Yingshan Shui Ying was much more heaven-defying than they expected. Even though they had given him the upper honored guest benefits, they were still quite happy about it. After all, he was a trump card. Indeed, he did not disappoint them. In the first round, Snow Eagle was ranked 2nd, obtaining 2 golden cauldrons. In the second round, he even defeated Xia Fa Yang, obtaining another golden cauldron. Hong Long Long, under the attention of many guests within the 11 Eden worlds that had shrunk, every primal chaos cultivator had shrunk too. They once again met enemies. This time it was just 2 silver-armored soldiers. These 2 silver-armored soldiers were much more savage. One silver-armored soldier turned into a surging cloud. This cloud engulfed the entire Eden world and restricted everyone. As for the other one, he was truly violent. He directly turned into frightening lightning. Large amounts of lightning struck down. Xia Jingji from the Summer Clan was restricted by the cloud and struck by the lightning. In less than a breath of time, he was teleported out by Emperor Summer. It was surging and violent. It was tyrannical. One after another, they were teleported out. Shwa, Shwa, Shwa. King Sauron, Fan Emoju, and Fan San Yuan were amongst the many figures that were teleported out. The second wave of enemies was too terrifying. Usually, only 2 or 3 could survive through the second wave during the competition between the 3 clans. Chapter 1096. I've lost. Fan San Yuan walked to his seat and sat down. He felt complex in his heart. He knew that his journey in this competition between the 3 clans had ended. He did not enter the top 3 in the first round, and he did not win the second round either. He only barely won a golden cauldron in the final round, just like King Sauron. Even Fan Mo Zhu won 2 golden cauldrons. As for Fan Ichien, who is currently fighting within the Eden world, there was no need to talk about Shan Snow Eagle. I originally thought that I could display my brilliance in this competition between the 3 clans. What a pity that I can't even be ranked in the top 5 amongst the group of primal chaos existences. Fan San Yuan softly shook his head. He looked at the many Eden worlds within the palace hall and was carefully watching the battles. Dongbua Shui Ying's battle was still the easiest. The devil heart bell by his waist was letting out a sweet ringing sound that reverberated across the entire Eden world. It affected those 2 silver-armored soldiers, causing their strength to be significantly reduced. The clouds were surging. Lightning struck down. The clouds and lightning were even faintly transforming, causing every single lightning bolt to be filled with destructive power when it struck down. Yet at the same time, it seemed to contain the aura of life. Dongbua Shui Ying could even vaguely see a cosmos being struck by lightning, giving birth to life. Lightning can destroy a world, and it can also create a world. Dongbua Shui Ying chuckled. Even though the power of this lightning was formidable, Dongbua Shui Ying had already formed the 5 phases sealing technique around his body, allowing him to easily resist against these lightning bolts. After all, the 2 silver-armored soldiers could not unleash their full strength under the influence of the Devil Heart Bell. Extinguish. Dongbua Shui Ying extended his right hand. The 5-phase beads on his wrist emitted light. His right hand expanded and covered the entire Eden world. His fingers seemed to have a gap, yet the space did not leave any gap. It enveloped and restricted all the clouds and lightning. Following that, Dongbua Shui Ying's enormous palm abruptly shrunk. The space within was also being compressed. Everything within was being suppressed. Hong! Boom! Although the 2 silver-armored soldiers were struggling, under the control of Dongbua Shui Ying, the sound of the demon heart bell and the illusory world still fused into the 5-element sealed space, making it impossible for the 2 silver-armored soldiers to shake the stability of the 5-element sealed space. In the end, they were forcibly suppressed and dissipated. After dealing with the second wave of enemies, Dongbua Shui Ying looked outside. Fan San Yuan and the other 2 were all teleported out? Dongbua Shui Ying discovered that among the primal chaos experts sent by the Fan clan, other than himself, only Fan Yiqian was barely holding on. As for the Tsang clan, the Tsang clan only had General Xian left. General Xian was still unhurried. His purple splendor illuminated the Grotto Heaven world, and its power kept increasing. Xia clan, there were still 3 left. Xia Fa Yang, Xia Chungyuan, and Xia Wuhua. Xia Fa Yang relied on his heart image and spirit formation, these 2 great techniques, and it was still relatively easy for him. He believed that he would be able to obtain victory even if he spent a little more time. Xia Qingyuan sang the great Dao song and had the upper hand. Only Xia Wuhua was having a hard time holding on amidst the violent lightning. Both Fan Yiqian and Xia Wuhua are having a hard time. Dongbua Shui Ying watched on. It is hard for them to survive the second round. Yiqian, Fan San Yuan, Fan Mo Zhu, and the others who had been teleported outside were watching anxiously. Scatter for me, scatter. Fan Yiqian had long gone mad. A bronze-colored pole brought with it a world-destroying might. Everywhere it passed, lightning would annihilate all living beings. His pole was sufficient to injure the 2 silver-armored soldiers who had turned into lightning and clouds. Nevertheless, the clouds and lightning complemented each other. Under the frenzied strikes, Fan Yiqian was struck until the corner of his mouth was filled with blood. His injuries were also worsening. At this moment, Fan Yiqian felt his ears ringing. In front of him, he could only see the lightning striking down. No, I'm not willing. I am not willing. Fan Yiqian felt like a small boat amidst a storm. This feeling of helplessness made him furious. South suddenly, a force descended. It enveloped Fan Yiqian and teleported him out. Fan Yiqian stood by his table in a daze. There was no longer any lightning around him. He held onto the bronze-colored pole. I couldn't win. Fan Yiqian's body trembled slightly. In the past, he had always been superstitious about his heaven-shattering strength, feeling that he could sweep through everything. But under the even more violent lightning, he was utterly defeated. Amen. Ancestor Fan looked down from the highest point. He frowned slightly. Out of the 5 disciples sent out by the Fan clan, for had been teleported out, and all of them obtained a single golden cauldron. And the Summer clan had a huge advantage because Xia Fa Yang and Xia Chungyuan had both won. Fan Yiqian had spent a long time battling. Other than Xia Wuhua, who was similarly having a hard time battling, Dongbua Shui Ying, General Xian, Xia Fa Yang, and Xia Qingyuan had won. I am a reincarnated body. and am a cosmos god in my previous life, even though I'm no longer qualified after breaking through in the competition between the three clans. But am I going to lose to 4 juniors consecutively at the Primal Chaos realm? Xiao Wuhua was doing his best to battle. If one said that Fanny Qian was using brute force, then Xiao Wuhua was more elegant. His entire body turned into a strand of sword light swimming amidst the lightning. Under the sky, full of lightning, many could not touch Xiao Wuhua at all. Even if some struck him, Xiao Wuhua would take the initiative to divert them away with his sword techniques. The sword light that was like a celestial river wreaked havoc on the surrounding cloud. Xiao Wuhua did not care about those sword lights. Instead, he was focused on attacking the cloud that was present everywhere. My body cultivation isn't strong enough. I have to try my best to evade and hold on for a longer period of time. Xiao Wuhua pushed his body technique to the limit. He was doing his best to evade the lightning, but there were too many of them, and they were too violent. Their power was too exaggerated. Even after being weakened by the sword lights, they were still corroding Xiao Wuhua's body. Finally, the cloud suddenly shrank back into a silver-armored soldier. Its aura had also become weak. Clearly, it did not dare to resist against the sword lights head-on. Without its help, the power of the lightning rapidly decreased. Only 20% to 30% remained. Good job. We are about to win. Many cosmos gods from the Summer Clan immediately cheered. The Tsang clan was still relatively indifferent. After all, the gap between the Tsang clan and the Summer clan was too big, and they no longer had any hope of winning. But the majority of the cosmos gods from the Fan clan had ugly expressions. Before Xiao Wuhua won, the Fan clan could still have some hope. But now, they could ignore this hope. Even though Xiao Wuhua was heavily injured, he could still easily destroy the silver-armored soldier. The competition between the three clans this time is indeed very powerful. There are actually a total of 5 who won the second wave. The previous time, there were only 2, right? It has been a long time since so many formidable young fellows appeared in the same era. The cosmos gods were clicking their tongues in praise. Even though it was normal for 2 or 3 to get through the second wave, there would occasionally be some heaven-defying geniuses appearing in the competition between the 3 clans. There were even primal chaos existences who won the 4th wave. Dongbua Shui Ying was solemnly looking in front of him because the 3rd wave of enemies had arrived. The surging aura condensed into a silver-armored soldier. This soldier stood there, yet behind him were many rings of fire. There were a total of 7 fire rings of different colors. 7-colored fire? The pupils of Dongbua Shui Ying dilated. Amongst the heaven-defying cultivation techniques at the Primal Chaos realm, the 5 phases sealing technique was ranked extremely high. But there were some terrifying cultivation techniques that could be completed in theory that were stronger. 3 realms technique, 7-colored fire, eternal night world. These were techniques that unparalleled existences could not improve any further. Hence, they had to rely on secret treasures to unleash the pinnacle of cultivation techniques at the Primal Chaos realm. The difficulty of the 7-colored fire was even higher than the 5 phases sealing technique. But there was a heaven-defying existence who grasped it in history. That was a heaven-defying monster from the Myriad Realms' ancient nation. The Eternal Night World was even harder. According to hearsay, one had to unleash 5 10th-level soul techniques before the Eternal Night World could be formed. Eternal Night World. Everything would belong to the Eternal Night, forever sinking into the boundless darkness without an end. The 7-colored fire is actually the 3rd trial. Dongbua Shui Ying was dumbstruck. Ding, 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 dang, dang. The sweet-sounding sound of the devil heart bell rang, causing the body of that silver-armored soldier to sway slightly. But he still waved his hand, causing a surging 7-colored fire to fly out. Fortunately, my strength is greatly affected by the illusory realm. I can't even unleash the complete fire ring. Dongbua Shui Ying heaved a sigh of relief inwardly. If the 7-colored fire ring enveloped him, he would have no way of escaping. The moment the ring was formed, The 7 colors would be like a wheel. With a perfect rotation, its power would be unstoppable. Even Dongbua Shui did not have the confidence to resist the 5 phases sealing technique. It was likely that he had to rely on the 9 rotation undying technique. Currently, it was just the 7 colored fire. He had the confidence to fight against it using the 5 phases sealing technique. Extinguish. He extended his right hand. His palm expanded, forming a huge hand that covered half the Eden world. It directly enveloped that surging 7-colored fire. When the 7-colored fire clashed against that huge hand, it immediately emitted chi-chi-chi sounds. That huge hand trembled as cracks were formed from the heat. But with the transformation of the 5 phases, it rapidly recovered. Oomph! When that silver-armored soldier saw that, he immediately rushed over with a spear in his hand. That spear was also covered in 7-colored fire. Someone who uses a spear? Dongbua Shui chuckled. At the center of the palace hall, the 5 talented primal chaos existences were fighting. Yingshan's snow eagle, who came from the southern cloud nation, could still fight against the silver-armored soldier. And General Xian was doing his best to delay for time. As for Xia Fa Yang, Xia Chengyuan, and Xia Wuhua, they were in a worse state. Xia Wuhua had practically been teleported out at the first instance. Xia Chengyuan's great Dao Song could not withstand against the flame ring formed by the complete 7-colored fire. In a breath of time, he was teleported out by Emperor Summer. Xia Fa Yang had used his heart resonance technique to greatly reduce the strength of the silver-armored soldier. Unfortunately, his spirit formation was still shattered by the weakened 7-colored fire. Xia Fa Yang was only able to delay the silver-armored soldier for a few breaths of time before he was teleported out. If this continued, he would most likely be burned alive. After all, the weakened 7-colored fire was comparable to Dongbua Shui Ying's 5 phases sealing technique. The summer clan has ended. The guests present had made their judgment. This competition between the 3 clans should be won by the summer clan. There are no more variables. And above the great palace hall, the 3 unparalleled existences were similarly clear about the situation. Haha, in this 3rd round, my summer clan has 3 young fellows who won the 2nd wave, and there's also Xia Jingji who won the 1st wave. In total, we have won a total of 7 golden cauldrons. In addition to the previous 5 golden cauldrons, my summer clan has won a total of 12 golden cauldrons this time. Emperor Summer looked at Ancestor Fan with a smile. Brother Fan, the other 4 young fellows from your fan clan are not bad, but they have only won the 1st wave and only 4 golden cauldrons. The previous 2 rounds have 4 golden cauldrons. This Yingshan Snow Eagle has to win the 4th wave before he can accumulate 12 golden cauldrons. Only then would it be a draw. Yingshan Snow Eagle had to win the 4th wave before he could reach a draw. And winning the 4th wave was already the most stunning achievement in the history of the competition between the 3 clans. Emperor Tsang chuckled from the side. Even if it is a draw, the chances of him winning aren't high even if there are additional battles. It hasn't reached the final moment. Ancestor Fan continued looking downwards. Emperor Tsang also looked downwards. Currently, only Dongbua Shui Ying and General Xian were fighting with difficulty. The 3rd wave of enemies is already so tiring. It is impossible for them to win the 4th wave. Emperor Tsang ridiculed. If Dongbua Shui Ying wanted to win, he could directly sneak by the side of the enemy using the pinnacle of voidification. The pinnacle of voidification was something many cosmos gods in the primal chaos void could not perceive even with the void barrier. By escaping to the side of the enemy, he could launch a sneak attack at the closest distance. The power of the 5 phases sealing technique could directly blast that silver-armored enemy to death. After all, not many could withstand the full power of the 5 phases sealing technique. Even if he could not kill the other party with a single slap, 3 or 4 slaps would suffice. It's just that Dongbua Shui Ying was not willing to display that technique unless absolutely necessary. He wanted to have a closer look at the legendary 7-colored fire. Even though this was a legend in the primal chaos realm, there were cosmos gods in the summer wind, ancient nation, and myriad realms, ancient nation, who specialized in this cultivation technique. After this competition between the three clans, he would soon become a cosmos god. By then, his opponents would not be Xia Fa Yang and the others in front of him, but many stronger cosmos gods in the future. What a formidable seven-colored fire. It is practically the pinnacle of destruction, and this has yet to form a ring of fire. Dongbua Shui Ying was inwardly startled. He watched as the incomparably beautiful seven-colored fire scorched his 5 phases sealed space. Ying Shan, Snow Eagle. Suddenly, an illusory voice that made Dongbua Shui Ying feel horrified sounded in the mind of Dongbua Shui Ying and that avatar located far away in the southern cloud capital. It sounded at the same time. If you can win against the 4th wave of enemies, I'll give you another 10,000 contribution points as a reward. If you can win against the 5th wave of enemies, I'll give you another 20,000 contribution points. Dongbua Shui Ying sensed something. He looked over. His gaze penetrated through the membrane of the Eden world. He saw that blurred figure of Ancestor Fan who stood at the highest point in the palace hall outside. He could not see it clearly in the past, but this time, Dongbua Shui Ying could see a pair of eyes within that blurred figure. That pair of eyes clashed with Dongbua Shui Ying's gaze. Dongbua Shui Ying immediately understood. Even though Emperor Tsang did not sense it, Emperor Summer, who controlled the Eden world to send down the enemies, chuckled as he glanced at Ancestor Fan. Ancestor Fan remained calmly looking down as if he did not do anything. Chapter 1097. As they faced the 3rd wave of enemies. Being someone who grasped hold of the 5 phases sealing technique in the 10th level illusory realm world, Snow Eagle won with much difficulty, as expected by the guests present. What? This Tsang Xian? He can win too. Fan Yiqian, Fan San Yuan, and the others were incredibly startled. Even those Cosmos God guests were shocked. Ying Shan's Snow Eagle relies on the mirage and illusory realm to prevent the enemy from unleashing the complete 7-colored fire. That was why he could barely win. But this Tsang Xian's enemy had unleashed the complete 7-colored fire ring. In the end, he won. Many guests present, and even some great paragons with high statuses, were indescribably shocked. The 7-colored ring of fire had already enveloped General Tsang Xian. However, General Tsang Xian's body was also protected by rings of purple light. Although parts of his body were starting to turn into ashes, the rest of his body was rapidly recovering. In this process of turning into ashes and growing, his life force was also weakening. However, at the same time, the vast purple light filled the entire grotto heaven world, enveloping the silver-armored soldier. The purple light became more and more turbulent. In the end, the turbulent purple light was like a terrifying wave. Just the impact caused the silver-armored soldier's body to be continuously injured. Finally, General Tsang Xian was left with 30% of his life force, and the silver-armored soldier was exhausted to death. What exactly is this cultivation technique? The Tsang clan doesn't have such a cultivation technique, right? The higher-ups from the Fan clan and Summer clan looked at the side of the Tsang clan in bewilderment. Those experts from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation who were not from the 3 great clans were puzzled too. Given their experience, they had never seen such a domain before. Violet, its power was getting stronger. Furthermore, its protective capabilities were frightening. One had to know that the 5 phases sealing technique was continuously damaged under the imperfect 7-colored fire. Under the 7-colored fire ring, most cosmos gods would be burnt to ashes. Even Dongbua Shui Ying did not dare to resist against it. He had to rely on the 9-rotation, undying technique to prevent the flames from touching his body. What a formidable protective cultivation technique. He dares to resist against the 7-colored fire ring? It should be the strongest known protective cultivation technique at the primal chaos realm. Many guests present were looking at that General Tsang Xian thoughtfully. Ordinary cosmos gods who specialized in body cultivation could not match up to him. This cultivation technique was so strong that it was abnormal. Furthermore, it had never appeared in history before. The stronger the disciples of the Tsang clan were, the happier they were. The stronger the disciples from the Tsang clan were. The one with the worst mood was the Fan clan. The 6 great paragons of the Fan clan sat there while the great paragons of the Summer clan and Tsang clan were chatting with them. Red Lotus religious leader, this Shan Snow Eagle is truly extraordinary. Perhaps he might win the 4th wave. By then, your Fan clan would still have a chance to emerge victorious. A golden-bearded old man covered in golden scales laughed. The Fan clan still has hope. Amen. Shan Snow Eagle, that fellow isn't bad. The few of you are the same. Shan Snow Eagle has such a hard time winning the 3rd wave. It's impossible for him to win the 4th wave. If you all console Killer and the others, they will only be unhappy. Ha ha, but I am really happy. A child of the Tsang clan with rosy lips and white teeth was laughing so hard that he was dancing with joy. Accompanying his laughter was the sound of endless waves crashing around him. Oof. The burly supreme venerable Lu Tian snorted coldly and glanced at the dancing child. Saint child, why are you laughing so hard over such a small matter? Aren't you disappointed? This is the 6th time. That child sneered. Seeing your Fan clan losing face makes me happy. Great Paragon Lu Tian's expression turned black. Ha! The child was still laughing. The other great paragons did not speak. The bitter sea sacred child of the Tsang clan and great paragon Lu Tian had a grudge. Everyone present understood that the two had a friendship of life and death, yet they had an irreconcilable enmity that led to the current outcome. But previously, when the bitter sea sacred child was slightly weaker and met with danger, great paragon Lu Tian was so furious that he wanted to kill his way over. The grudge between the two was something even Emperor Summer and the other two could not resolve. My Fan clan hasn't lost yet. Great paragon Lu Tian swept his gaze across the bitter sea sacred child. Sacred child, don't be happy too early. Oh, then I'll be watching. I'll be happy in a while. The child giggled. The other great paragons from the Fan clan were silently watching the 2 remaining Eden worlds at the center of the palace hall. If they lost, firstly, they would lose face. Secondly, they would not have the chance to enter the Origin Realm God Palace. According to the rules of the Fan clan, weaker cosmos gods were not qualified to enter. It was too wasteful to enter the Origin Realm God Palace. And existences at the level of Ancestor Fan had entered several times in the past. Hence, they did not have much desire for the Origin Realm God Palace. Most of them would be given to the great paragons under them. They wanted to enter. It's the Origin Realm God Palace. No matter how we fight, we aren't qualified to enter. The guests who were not invited by the 3 great clans from the Summerwind Ancient Nation were all absolute experts. Some of them were even comparable to Southern Cloud King in strength. But they sighed inwardly. They had no choice. The best resources were usually given to the 3 great clans by Emperor Summer and the other 2 great clans. They would only leak some to them, and this was under the situation where they were always at the beck and call of the 3 great clans. This was already not bad. The Summer clan and Tsang clan disdained to care about the external nations. Even though the Fan clan had honored guests from other nations, the missions were difficult. To the people of the same nation, the 3 great clans were considered benevolent. Within the 2 Eden worlds, Dongbua Shuiying and Tsang Xian were waiting. Hong Long Long. Surging auras condensed. The 4th wave of enemies had arrived. Wah! Dongbua Shuiying watched as a golden-armored soldier condensed in front of him. That golden-armored soldier stared at Dongbua Shuiying with cold eyes. The temperature of the entire Eden world abruptly plummeted. For a moment, the great earth froze. It felt as if time-space had been frozen, and there was nowhere to hide. If one were to say that other places were merely affected by the shock waves, then where Dongbua Shuiying stood was the core of the attack. Faint gray ice cubes had completely frozen Dongbua Shuiying's body. Such a horrifying technique would freeze most cosmos gods until their bodies disintegrated. Even if they did not die, the movement speed of their bodies would become extremely slow after being frozen. Their strength would be greatly reduced, and they would be easily killed. Such a technique was theoretically impossible for primal chaos existences to execute. Clearly, the fourth wave of trials utilized techniques that cosmos gods could only execute by relying on secret treasures. Quite formidable. Dongbua Shui seemed to have been frozen. He remained standing there unmoving, though the edge of his lips curled upwards into a grin. He could still smile even when he was frozen. In another grotto heaven world. Hua! Just a breath of time after exchanging moves, General Xian was teleported out, because he was already heavily injured in the previous battle. The terrifying coldness of the fourth wave of enemies descended upon him, and his body was frozen by the faint gray ice. The power of the ice was even slightly stronger than that of the seven-colored ring of fire, causing his injuries to worsen. In the time it took for a single breath, the Xia Emperor had immediately teleported him out. The competition between the three clans of the Tsang clan's General Xian had ended at this point. This time, there was only one primal chaos existence left fighting, and that was Ying Shan's Snow Eagle, who came from the Southern Cloud Nation. Strange. Why hasn't his aura become weaker? The guests looked at the scene within the Eden world with slight bewilderment. After all, this was an Eden world controlled by Emperor Summer, and they could not permeate into it. They could only make their judgment by observing with their naked eyes. Ying Shan's Snow Eagle even turned around to see General Xian being teleported out before disappearing. He disappeared? He has been teleported out? As the higher-ups of the Fan clan could not help but check the palace hall, they discovered that the figure of Dongbua Shui did not appear within. Dongbua Shui was not in a rush to kill the enemy. Under the terrifying domain, he naturally executed the 9-rotation undying technique at the first moment, preventing the coldness from injuring him at all. Following Dongbua Shui was primarily inspecting the techniques of the enemy. He had too little experience fighting against powerful cosmos gods. Naturally, he had to accumulate more experience to pry out more supreme laws. His goal was never just to become a cosmos god. Coldness, deathly stillness. Even time-space can be frozen into deathly stillness. Dongbua Shui felt this cold realm. He could not help but feel horrified inwardly. But the realm I grasped has transcended the ordinary time-space category. It is directed at the essence of the entire origin world. I have fused with the essence of the void of the origin world, and those who cannot break the cage of the origin world can't injure me. With a thought, Dongbua Shui directly disappeared from the outside world. Absolutely disappeared. Even if cosmos gods came to investigate, they could not discover anything at all. This was how terrifying the pinnacle of voidification was. You just had to modify the second chapter. Chapter 1098. Whoosh. The feeling of merging with the essence of the void was wonderful. Dongbua Shui slowly walked forward, his body twisting and spinning. Countless black mist spherical particles surrounded him, as if he was one of them. Soon, he came to the side of the golden-armored soldier who was looking around cautiously. Boom! Without any warning, a blurry palm formed by 5 streams of air suddenly appeared above the golden-armored soldier's head. Without giving the golden-armored soldier any chance to resist, he directly slapped down. It looked like a slap, but in fact, it was the 5 phases sealing space directly contracting and suppressing it. The perfect combination of the 5 10th level techniques was the suppression of the entire space. He wanted to destroy the enemy forcefully. This was an absolutely tyrannical move that could crush them head-on. Even the Thunder King, Mo Chao, with his 10th level celestial sword invincible body, was unable to withstand it. The Xia Emperor had given the golden-armored soldiers powerful attacks, so naturally, the defense of their bodies wouldn't be too heaven-defying. If it was too heaven-defying, the difficulty would be too high. After all, the difficulty of the 3rd and 4th wave would gradually increase. Ultimately, This test was targeted at the primal chaos realm. He had to leave behind something that could fulfill his hopes. Dong Ying was slightly surprised. When the 5 phases sealing art was fully activated, the enemy was caught off guard and was killed in a single move. Isn't his body survivability too heaven-defying? The golden-armored soldier died. The coldness in the surroundings dissipated. Only then did Dongbua Shui Ying's figure materialize out of thin air. Seeing the white-robed young man who appeared from nothingness within the Eden world, Fan Yixian, Fan San Yuan, Fan Mo Zhu, King Sauron, and the primal chaos experts from the Summer Clan and Song Clan were dumbstruck. Disappeared without a trace? Killed in one move? He actually hid his strength after winning the 3rd wave? General Xian was extremely shocked. He had become the disciple of Master Yuan due to a fortuitous encounter. Although he was humble, he was actually very proud. But now he was completely stunned. This is his true strength? No wonder he could become a high honorary delegate. Fan San Yuan even felt that it was luck for the Fan clan to be able to invite an expert at the primal chaos realm to become an honored guest. One had to know. Ever since the Second War of the Ancient Nations, the 3 clans competition organized by the 3 major clans had only won the 4th wave. And it was very difficult. How could he be as relaxed as this snow eagle? Ha ha ha. Scarning Great Venerate stood up and laughed heartily. Well done. Well done. No wonder you are an upper honored guest of my Fan clan. His laughter reverberated in the hall as he deliberately glanced at the Xia clan and Song clan great seniors. The teasing words of those great paragons were still ringing in his ears. As the current overseer of the Fan clan, Skyrending Great Paragon was truly laughing out loud at this moment, slapping their faces on purpose. At their level, because they were from the same ancient country, they wouldn't kill each other. On the contrary, it was more common for them to fight over personal feelings and face. Beautiful. Amazing. This is the pinnacle of voidification. Reaching the pinnacle of voidification at the primal chaos realm is unfathomable and amazing. Where did he learn the ultimate technique of voidification? Does the Southern Cloud Nation have such a cultivation technique? Who cares where he learned it? It's a good thing that he can put it to use. The Cosmos gods from the Fan clan were all grinning from ear to ear. Skyrending Great Paragon, Red Lotus Religious Master, and others were in a good mood because they could see how easy it was for them to win the 4th wave. This heaven-defying Ying Shan Snow Eagle who grasped hold of the 10th level illusory realm technique, the 5 phases sealing technique, and the pinnacle of voidification was absolutely the most terrifying primal chaos expert in the history of the competition between the 3 clans. It was likely that the 5th wave could not stop him. As long as they won the 5th wave, the Fan clan would have won. By then, the chance to enter the Origin Realm God Palace would belong to their Fan clan. Skyrending Great Venerate and the others were already thinking about how to negotiate with the other 5. Choosing him was truly the right choice. Skyrending Great Paragon rejoiced. 10,000 contribution points for the Fan clan to win a chance to enter the Origin Realm God Palace. It was truly worth it. Even if it was 30,000 or 50,000 contribution points, it would be worth it. Little did he know that Ancestor Fan had already promised Dongbua Shuang, and on the highest seat, Emperor Summer, Emperor Tsong, and Ancestor Fan were slightly astonished. Extreme voidification? He actually mastered the pinnacle of voidification. Someone at the primal chaos realm could cultivate it. He should be a powerful cosmos god who reincarnated. Emperor Summer and the others could not help but think this way, because it was too difficult to reach the primal chaos realm. Like Guqi, who became a cosmos god in the Tao of Void, he had a clear cultivation technique, the Walker's hidden secret. As long as he cultivated it to the 60th level grand perfection, he would be able to achieve the pinnacle of voidification. Nonetheless, he had yet to succeed. One could see how difficult it was to reach the pinnacle of voidification. The degree of difficulty was beyond that of the Eternal Night World, 3 Realms Technique, and 7-Colored Fire. It was absolutely one of the hardest known primal chaos cultivation techniques. It was something many cosmos gods yearned for even in their dreams. After all, this survival ability was too heaven-defying. Breaking the cage of the origin world was too difficult. Even experts who specialized in the void had a hard time doing so, much less those who specialized in other Tao paths. The difficulty of cultivating it to the primal chaos realm is too high, but he should have reincarnated, and his attainments in his previous life should be extremely high. Emperor Summer and the others determined that if Snow Eagle was an expert at the level of Southern Cloud King in his previous life, with his foundation, it was possible for him to reach the pinnacle of voidification by disguising himself as a primal chaos realm expert, using the profound mysteries at the primal chaos realm. Where did he get the pinnacle of voidification cultivation technique? The three of them were curious too, because currently, only the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation and Summerwind Ancient Nation had cultivation techniques that could allow one to reach the pinnacle of voidification at the primal chaos realm. According to logic, Snow Eagle should not have learned it. Or did he learn it in another origin world in his previous life? Ancestor Fan chuckled. There was no need to care too much about this. It was normal for experts to exist in other origin worlds. For instance, the 5 ancestors from the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation were all reincarnators. No matter what, Snow Eagle had helped his fan clan this time. The 4th wave has been settled. Ancestor Fan chuckled as he turned to Emperor Summer by the side. Let the 5th wave begin. Emperor Summer and Emperor Tsong exchanged glances. This pair of old brothers also chuckled. I still thought Brother Fan could create another record this time, allowing the Fan clan to lose 6 times in a row. What a pity that it has been destroyed by a little fellow. Emperor Summer teased, saying that he had already sent 5 enemies. Naturally, he would not deliberately increase the difficulty. What identity and status did he have for Ancestor Fan and Emperor Tsong to be willing to assist him? Other than his strength, this was the basic fairness that Emperor Summer could naturally achieve. Furthermore, he had even deliberately given benefits to the Fan clan and Tsong clan. The 5th wave consisted of 2 golden-armored soldiers. But this time, Snow Eagle brandished his Scarlet Cloud God Spear. Actually, the 5 phases sealing technique was formed by the condensation of the 5 phases. It could be applied on the palm or other weapons. It could even be executed from thin air. The way it was executed could directly seal the enemy within a space and suppress them. It could also be used with the power of an entire space. This time, Donghua Shuang chose to use his weapon. He imbued the 5 phases sealing technique on his spear, causing the spear to be incomparably heavy. One golden-armored soldier was directly smashed into pieces. The other one was smashed twice before he was annihilated. After winning the 5th wave, Donghua Shuang directly walked out of the Eden world. There was no longer a need to continue. It was fine as long as he won. He was an outsider, and there was no need for him to be in the limelight in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Upper honored guest Feishua, you have done beautifully. Skyrunning Great Paragon personally walked down. He took 2 to 3 steps before arriving in front of Donghua Shuang. He passed a cup of wine to Donghua Shuang passionately. Come, let me toast you. Donghua Shuang felt slightly overwhelmed by the favor. Skyrending Great Paragon actually came to toast at this occasion. One had to know that the status of Skyrending Great Paragon was the highest among the 6 Great Paragons of the Fan clan. After all, he was the manager. Donghua Shuang immediately received it. Many thanks, Great Paragon. The 2 of them immediately drank it. Good. By the side, other than the Cosmos gods from the Fan clan cheering and praising, there were some guests who were not from the 3 great clans. The Summer clan and Tsong clan were also looking at Donghua Shuang with astonishment. They were discussing with one another. Since the Fan clan won, they would calmly accept it. After all, in the history of the competition between the 3 clans, the 3 great clans would have some wins and some losses. Skyrending Great Paragon, Ying Snow Eagle has contributed so much for your fan clan. You mustn't mistreat him. A male from the Summer clan, who carried a god sword on his back, announced. That's natural. Skyrending Great Paragon laughed out loud. He then turned to Dongbua Shui Ying and transmitted over upper honored guest Fei Shue, who would have thought that you actually have the pinnacle of voidification. I wonder if this cultivation technique of yours was created by yourself? Or was it created by an expert from your previous life's origin world? Dongbua Shui Ying was startled. He understood that the other party was certain that he had reincarnated into another world. That's right, too. He had cultivated for such a short period, and comprehending the 5 phases sealing technique was already heaven-defying. He comprehended another 10 levels of mirage and illusory realm technique, and now he could even achieve the pinnacle of voidification. Furthermore, he did not reincarnate into another world. Instead, he cultivated it from nothing in this life. Emperor Summer, Ancestor Fan, and the others would most likely not believe it. Skyrending Great Paragon was so polite and even took the initiative to propose a toast. Most likely, he was certain that Dongbua Shui Ying had reincarnated into another world. Furthermore, he was an extremely powerful cosmos god in his previous life. That was why he was so courteous. If the other party was truly a primal chaos expert, it was impossible for Skyrending Great Paragon to lower himself to such an extent given his identity and etiquette. I obtained it by chance. Dongbua Shui Ying transmitted over. It was temporarily not the time for him to reveal it to the public. It seems your previous life's origin world is quite powerful. Skyrending Great Paragon did not doubt it. After all, it was too difficult to create such a cultivation technique. If the outside world knew about it, a primal chaos expert who could create a cultivation technique would definitely be shocked silly, because learning it was difficult and creating it was much more difficult. Only the 2 great ancient nations in the realm Heart Great Land had such a cultivation technique. Southern Cloud King and the others could not even create it. Even though Dongbua Shui Ying viewed the scaled armor of General Mo Gu as a reference, others could not learn the cultivation technique, yet he could create it. That showed how heaven-defying his comprehension ability was. Chapter 1099. Within the palace hall of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation's royal palace, the competition between the 3 clans had ended. The atmosphere within the palace hall became much more relaxed. Your fan clan is really lacking. You nearly lost 6 times consecutively. Who would have thought that a Ying Snow Eagle would appear at this moment? This is luck. It is destined that our fan clan will not lose. The higher-ups of the 3 great clans were talking to each other. At the same time, many guests deliberately chatted with Dongbua Shui Ying. Those who were invited as guests were at least at the level of the fiery Zhao ruler and the Maple Nest ruler. Most of them were very knowledgeable and had extraordinary foresight. Most of them had their own deductions. This Ying Snow Eagle is so heaven-defying, and the possibility of him reincarnating is extremely high. Furthermore, the pinnacle of voidification cultivation technique is something that both the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation and Summerwind Ancient Nation would never impart to outsiders. Where did he learn that? There was nowhere to learn. There's only one possibility. He was reincarnated. He had learned it in another origin world in his previous life. An expert from another origin world could reach the pinnacle of voidification at the Primal Chaos Realm just by using the profound mysteries at the Primal Chaos Realm. This represented that Snow Eagle's true combat power was extremely great. That is an origin world that could create the pinnacle of voidification at the Primal Chaos Realm. I believe the foundation of that origin world shouldn't be too bad. We must befriend them. They no longer looked at Dongbua Shui Ying with the gaze of a young fellow from the Southern Cloud Nation. Instead, they were looking at an expert who had reincarnated from a powerful great origin world behind him. For an elder Fei Shue, I'm also studying the Void Dao. If you're free, you can come to my Misty Fox Mansion. We can discuss the Dao to our heart's content. A fat, bald, old man chuckled. The Venerable One's invitation is the snow eagle's fortune. After I'm done with my work, I'll definitely go to the Venerable One's residence. Dongbua Shui Ying immediately answered. This was Paragon Misty Fox from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Even though he did not belong to the three great clans, he was still a great paragon. His foundation might not be as strong as Dongbua Shui Ying's teacher, Southern Cloud King, but his direct combat strength should not be too far off. How could he dare to slight such a person? One by one, they would exchange a few words and form some friendships. Or they might even invite him directly. Dongbua Shui Ying was obviously highly regarded by these guests. This gap, the other primal chaos existences who were similarly participating in the competition between the three clans, were watching with envy and helplessness. Those who could become guests here were not ordinary cosmos gods. Previously, he rarely conversed with these primal chaos experts. After all, the difference in strength was obvious. These guests have already conversed with Yingshan, Snow Eagle, yet they are ignoring us. This Yingshan Snow Eagle is ultimately too talented. It is natural for him to be valued. All of them could only be envious. The majority of them thought that Yingshan Snow Eagle was treated politely because he was a monster. But they did not know that those guests treated Dongbua Shui Ying as an expert on the same level. The banquet was over. The higher-ups from the Fan clan naturally left. Dongbua Shui Ying also befriended a group of cosmos gods from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation and received many invitations. He was willing to do so. After all, the entire Realm Heart Great Land was a paradise for him to improve his strength. Naturally, he would do his best to befriend others and accumulate resources that could help him. Upper honored guest Feishua, let us go together. Skyrending Great Paragon took the initiative to invite Dongbua Shui Ying back to the Fan Clan Magic Mountain with him. Don't look anymore. If you were as strong as Yingshan Snow Eagle, you would be treated politely too. Monarch Andromeda glanced at Fan San Yuan, Fan Mo Zhu, Fan Iqian, and King Sauron by the side. Let's go. Yes. Fan San Yuan and the others watched as Skyrending Great Paragon and Dongbua Shui Ying left. They then boarded their own carriages with complicated feelings before returning under the lead of Monarch Andromeda. Fan Clan Magic Mountain. There was a short and thick violet tree. This tree trunk was several meters thick. It was just 33 meters tall. Its treetop was huge. It covered close to half a kilometer. Skyrending Great Paragon and Dongbua Shui Ying were seated cross-legged under the tree. Both of them were facing each other. In front of them were good wine and delicacies, and there were beautiful female attendants serving them. Amen? Dongbua Shui Ying could not help but look at this short and thick tree. The tree trunk, branches, and leaves were all violet in color. It was as if it was carved from violet jade. Have you felt the uniqueness of this god tree? Skyrending Great Paragon chuckled. Yes, it is indeed mystical. Dongbua Shui Ying nodded. Beneath this tree, there was an unseen energy being absorbed by his body. This unseen energy was directly nourishing his soul, giving it an extremely comfortable feeling. Furthermore, his soul was faintly becoming stronger at an extremely slow pace. This is something Teacher had snatched before the first war of the Ancient Nations. Skyrending Great Paragon chuckled. It was named by Teacher as the Burning Heart God Tree. It is precisely under this God Tree that Teacher's unfazed mystical technique reached grand perfection. Dongbua Shui Ying was startled. There was such an origin. With his identity and status in the Southern Cloud Nation, he knew of many intelligent secrets. But he had never heard of the Burning Heart God Tree. Ancestor Fan was able to cultivate the unfazed mystical technique to grand perfection under this God Tree. It was likely that this God Tree had some unique aspects. The Burning Heart God Tree has the effect of nourishing the soul. This is fine since it can only be nourished for a year and a half before the soul can no longer improve. Skyrending Great Paragon raised his wine cup. Dongbua Shui Ying also followed suit. After the two of them drank the wine, Skyrending Great Paragon continued. But the most unique aspect of the Burning Heart God Tree is its burning heart. The longer you cultivate under this tree, the more intense the feeling will be. It is greatly beneficial to the cultivation of the soul. What realm did my teacher reach in the past? He had perfected the unfazed mystical technique under this god tree. Burning heart. It is greatly beneficial to the cultivation of the soul. Dongbua Shuang could not help but feel his heart stirring. His mirage, an illusory realm, was related to the soul. The soul, it was very mysterious and unique. Like the pinnacle of voidification, one's body would completely fuse with the essence of the void. As long as one did not break the cage of the origin world, one could not be injured. However, there was one exception, and that was soul technique. Soul techniques were formless and soundless, and they would descend instantaneously. Even if Dongbua Shuang had fused with the void, his soul still existed. Hence, he could still deal with him using soul techniques. Naturally, the pinnacle of voidification had disappeared entirely. One could not detect it at all. Hence, there was no target for soul attacks. Even if one attacked, with Dongbua Shuang's current attainments in the soul and the mirage and illusory realm, during the first trial of the competition between the three clans, a cosmos god who specialized in the soul could not deal with him even with his secret treasure. Only when the three of them worked together could they defeat him. Once he became a cosmos god, his soul would undergo another transformation. It would be much harder to deal with him using the soul aspect. This secret treasure of yours is the Devil Heart Bell. Do you specialize in the mirage and illusory realm? Skyrending Great Paragon asked again. Yes. Dongbua Shuang nodded. The Tao of the soul is very difficult. Skyrending Great Paragon chuckled. If you cultivate under the Burning Heart God tree, it will be greatly beneficial to you. But there is only one tree here. The aura it emits can only be absorbed by a single cultivator. If two cultivators were to absorb it at the same time, the effect would be much weaker. The Burning Heart God tree is incomparably precious. Usually the 6 of us great paragons will take turns to use it. Only disciples of my fan clan or honored guests who have contributed greatly would have the chance to come here. Skyrending Great Paragon said, This time, you have contributed greatly. I can allow you to cultivate here for a year and a half. Even though it won't be of much help to your cultivation, it can nourish your soul to the pinnacle. Many thanks, Great Paragon. Ancestor Fan has already bestowed me 30,000 contribution points. Dongbua Shuang immediately replied, I know. Skyrending Great Paragon chuckled. Cultivating for a long period of time and a year and a half is a minor matter. But if you want to have great accomplishments in the Tao of the soul, you have to cultivate under the Burning Heart God tree for 1 trillion years. Only then will it be of greater help. But the time is too long, and I don't have the authority to promise you. Dongbua Shuang felt his heart moving. He understood. If one wanted to obtain, one had to pay the price. The origin world you lived in your previous life actually has a cultivation technique that allows one to reach the pinnacle of voidification at the primal chaos realm. Their foundation should be relatively deep. Skyrending Great Paragon looked at Dongbua Shuang. My fan clan will naturally give us more mysterious and formidable cultivation techniques. If you give a cultivation technique to my fan clan will give you corresponding benefits. Top-graded secret treasures. Cultivating under the Burning Heart God tree. There are some benefits that weren't recorded in your scroll. Everything can be discussed. Skyrending Great Monarch smiled. A fair exchange. The Tao was the foundation. Sufficiently powerful secret importation techniques were sufficient to make these apex superpowers desire them. Ordinary top-graded secret treasures could not be given out, even though it was stated on the scroll that 200,000 contribution points could be given out. But in reality, Southern Cloud King had yet to accumulate 200,000 contribution points. But if a powerful secret importation technique was offered, both parties could exchange for it. Then many things could be discussed. Some are restricted during cultivation and cannot be taught to others. Dongbua Shuang said, I understand. Skyrending Great Paragon beamed. As for what I can teach to others, I'll think about it first. Dongbua Shuang said. The 9-rotation undying technique was created by him. Naturally, he could exchange it, but now wasn't the time. Haha, everything can be discussed. It is a fair exchange. Skyrunning Great Paragon nodded. For some texts, one chapter would end today, and the reincarnation chapter would end tomorrow. Star. Chapter 1100. At this moment in the Southern Cloud Nation, within the royal palace, this disciple of mine has truly frightened me. Southern Cloud King sat cross-legged on the black grass field. Behind him was a deep pool that was emitting white frost. As the white frost rose, the face of Southern Cloud King became blurred. His eyes were deep and unfathomable, unleashing the pinnacle of voidification at the primal chaos realm. Such a deep foundation and accumulation. Given his current strength, Southern Cloud King did not dare say he was 100% confident of achieving the pinnacle of voidification without relying on the profound mysteries at the cosmos god level and just using the laws and profound mysteries at the primal chaos realm. He is definitely a cosmos god in his previous life. I wonder who created this pinnacle of voidification at the primal chaos realm? Is it an unparalleled existence in his previous origin world? Southern Cloud King pondered. Given his strength and talent, why didn't he take Ancestor Fan as his teacher in the past and chose me instead? His disciple had such a huge origin and was so powerful. Southern Cloud King had to consider carefully. It is impossible for him to threaten me. Southern Cloud King was confident. Given his foundation, unparalleled existences could not eliminate him. Naturally, he was confident of facing this disciple of his. Then why did he take me as his teacher? Because of treasures? Or because of freedom? Or is he not willing to participate in the battles between the ancient nations? Southern Cloud King pondered. The 6 great ancient nations were powerful, but the battles between them were intense too. It was impossible for core members of the Fan clan to avoid battles. But it was different if he was an honored guest. The authority of an honored guest was much smaller, but he could choose to accept or not to accept missions. Haha, no matter what, since he took me as his teacher, he is my disciple in this life. Southern Cloud King chuckled. With a good helper, my Southern Cloud sacred religion will have much better days in the future. The 10 great religions. Other than the 8 that originated from the 6 great ancient nations, the remaining Sky Sword sect would frequently bully the Southern Cloud sacred religion. Previously, they even dared to invade the Black Devil formations. No other choice. Southern Cloud King was not afraid of others, but those organizations with great origins were not afraid of him either. Snow Eagle. Southern Cloud King directly summoned him. The other avatar of Dongbua Shui Ying had always been in the Southern Cloud capital. Very soon, the golden-robed Dongbua Shui Ying turned into a stream of light and arrived at his master's place of cultivation. Southern Cloud King chuckled as he watched the golden-robed young man walking over. At this moment, the way he looked at his disciple was entirely different. Snow Eagle, you have concealed yourself quite deeply. Southern Cloud King chuckled. Master knows. Dongbua Shuang smiled. A group of good friends from the Summerwind Ancient Nation told me about it. Haha, pinnacle of voidification. Other than the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation and Summerwind Ancient Nation, there are actually other cultivation techniques that allow one to achieve the pinnacle of voidification at the primal chaos realm. Southern Cloud King looked at Dongbua Shuang. Oh right, who was the one who created this? Was it your master from your past life? Or was it some expert from the origin world in your past life? He is a cosmos god from the religion in my previous life. Dongbua Shui Ying chose to temporarily hide it. It seems your religion in your previous life is quite powerful. Southern Cloud King nodded. He did not dare imagine that it was created by a primal chaos expert, because the Realm Heart Great Land had 2 cultivation techniques that allowed the primal chaos realm to achieve the pinnacle of voidification. Both were created by unparalleled existences. Created at the primal chaos realm? What a joke. If others knew about it, they would have alerted many experts. After all, this comprehension ability was too heaven-defying. Even with the scaled armor of General Mo as a reference and the accumulation of 2 origin worlds, it was still frightening for the other party to create this cultivation technique. All right, when are you planning to become a cosmos god? Southern Cloud King casually asked. Currently, there are quite a few who guess that you are reincarnated into another world. There is no need for you to hide it anymore. In the near future, Dongbua Shui Ying answered. Void, mirage, and illusory realm? Southern Cloud King asked. Doubt, a void. Dongbua Shui chuckled. Who? Southern Cloud King let out a sigh of relief. He chuckled. I still thought you wanted to become a cosmos god in both the Tao of void and mirage and illusory realm. There's no rush. I still have to accumulate more experience. Dongbua Shui Ying humbly replied. Since everyone felt that he was a reincarnated cosmos god, then it was temporarily fine. After all, he was about to become a cosmos god soon. Since you did not take Ancestor Fan as your teacher in the past, and chose to take me as your teacher instead, you can read all the books in my Southern Cloud Sacred Religion. If there is anything I can help you with, feel free to tell me. I have many cosmos crystals, but I can't buy those that are truly precious. Like top-graded secret treasures and many secret interpretation techniques, they are not sold. Anything that can be solved using cosmos crystals, I can help you. If you are strong, you can also help my Southern Cloud Sacred Religion. The wider my Southern Cloud Sacred Religion spreads, the more cosmos crystals we can earn. Southern Cloud King chuckled. He no longer treated this disciple in front of him as a junior. Instead, he treated him as a powerful existence who was close to him in terms of cultivation. Teacher, rest assured, if there is a need, this disciple won't be polite. Dongbua Shui chuckled. Even though he said that, he would only speak if there was a need. Amen. Southern Cloud King chuckled and nodded. He felt relaxed. No other choice. All along, he had been fighting against the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion alone. The other helpers felt that they were too weak. Southern Cloud Capital, Feishue Courtyard. Dongbua Shui Ying's other avatar was temporarily staying here. Within a meditation room, within Feishue Courtyard, a fragrance pervaded the air, causing one's heart to feel ethereal. Great Destruction Realm Teleportation Technique. The golden-robed Dongbua Shui Ying sat on a praying mat. In his mind, he was recalling the contents of the Great Destruction Realm Teleportation Technique. Naturally, he was not cultivating it. Given his current strength, he could not cultivate this Great Destruction Realm Teleportation Technique. This secret technique had a ridiculously harsh requirement. The reason why he researched this secret technique was to understand if 2 avatars could sense each other when they were in different origin worlds. Indeed, Dongbua Shui Ying frowned slightly. Even though the soul senses are profound, the 2 origin worlds have different supreme laws. Hence, it is hard for 2 avatars to sense each other in different origin worlds. According to what was written in the Great Destruction Realm Teleportation Technique, if an avatar headed to a distant origin world, because he was an outsider, he would be suppressed by the supreme law of the other origin world. At most, he could only grasp power at the primal chaos realm. According to the experience of Southern Cloud King, when executing the Great Destruction Realm Teleportation Technique, the avatars he sent to other origin worlds were either strong or weak. The weaker avatars had weaker souls, and their connection with the true body in the realm Heart Great Land would be very weak. Only by using all his strength could he barely transmit the memories. And the stronger avatars would have a stronger connection with the true body in the realm Heart Great Land. As long as they focused slightly, they could exchange memories. Teacher is a second-level cosmos god, and I am only at the first level after breaking through. I wonder if the 2 avatars could sense each other in different origin worlds? Dongbua Shui Ying thought. It should be possible for me to forcefully communicate with them, but he was afraid they could not communicate. Why did he leave the other avatars in the realm Heart Great Land? It was for the sake of obtaining more resources for him to walk further down the path of cultivation. If they could not communicate, then there would be a danger. The two avatars would gradually form different wills and thoughts. It was fine for a short period. Given the cultivation heart realm of Dongbua Shui, he could easily communicate with the two avatars and resolve everything. But if it took a long time, for instance, only after several tens of billions of years or more would the avatar souls be strong enough to communicate with each other. That would cause problems. Splitting one's consciousness was terrifying. There shouldn't be any problems. When I return to my hometown and reincarnate, if I could no longer sense each other and exchange memories, I'll just let the avatar in the realm heart great land become stronger and buy a large amount of essence of chaotic origin to consume. If it still doesn't work, I can only cultivate for a short period. Once it takes a long time, I'll have to sleep first. Dongbua Shuang thought. Those who could use the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique and send two avatars to two different origin worlds were usually powerful. Usually they were at least second-level cosmos gods, because only those at this level could cultivate the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique successfully. Dongbua Shuang relied on the Realm Heart Order energy to return to his hometown. The Realm Heart Order was mysterious. Even though the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique could send an avatar to another origin world, the avatar would be rejected by the other origin world, preventing it from reincarnating. Reincarnating was something that outsiders had to obtain the permission of the Supreme Law before they could do so. If they did not reincarnate, the limit of their strength would be the primal chaos realm. Their exploration of an origin world was limited, and what they could learn was limited too. Only by reincarnating could one's strength increase without any restrictions. Only then could one truly integrate into an origin world and obtain the true benefits of an origin world. Wang. Dongbua Shuang closed his eyes. He began meditating and cultivating. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.